Yo, she's about to lie to you. Hell yeah. Let's start the show. Will she be honest today? The answer to that question is no. She's not going to be honest. She's gonna continue to lie. Yo, Karine Jean-Pierre is about to walk in. And when she does, the lies will begin. All those lies, yeah. She's gonna lie to you. She's gonna lie to you. She's gonna lie. Nothing she says is honest. Nothing at all is honest. Nothing at all is honest. How come the sign language lady isn't signing what I'm singing? How disrespectful. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, Jeremy Browning from the Daily Wire. You should pick up this show. Oh, Crowder cries. Yeah. Oh, Crowder planned this attack on the Daily Wire for months with illegal wiretapping. Brenda told me to stop singing. Don't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. Oh, Brenda tells me to stop singing 'cause she doesn't have a sense of humor. No sense of humor, Brenda. Oh, what else would I do other than to sing this incredibly awesome song for all of you? Come on, sign language lady, headbang. Yeah! 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 Is this gonna begin anytime soon? No, it's not. No, it's Oh my god. Whew. That was a long note I held there, wasn't it? Yeah. Alright, here we go. She's gonna walk in as soon as the song ends. I coordinated with the Secret Service. No, okay, never mind. I thought she was gonna open the door right then. How awesome would that have been?
Anyway, oh, look at that timing. Hell yeah.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Shut
Happy
up.
Friday.
She lies.
I'm going to get right to it. Today we have John Kirby in the room, who's going to, from National Security Council, who's going to be talking about a couple of products and announcements from the national security space. So, Kirby.
She looks miserable.
Yours, and then I'll come back and take questions. Thanks, everybody. See you
that long note, that hurt a little bit. I'll just be honest. It hurt a little bit. Just hurt a little bit. Do you hear
Today,
the world's smallest violin?
I want to take a little bit of time to discuss some new actions that we are going to be taking to counter the Russian private military company known as Wagner,
Okay.
which is committing atrocities and human rights abuses in Ukraine and, of course, elsewhere around the world.
So we're going to give lots of money to Ukraine?
First.
More money?
I want to be able to provide some additional information about Wagner's operations in Ukraine. Now, as his military continues to struggle in Ukraine, President Putin is increasingly turning to Wagner, which is owned by Yevgeny Prigozhin, for military support.
Yevgeny's
We are seeing indications, including in intelligence, that tensions between Wagner and the Russian Ministry of Defense are increasing. Wagner is becoming a rival power center to the Russian military and other Russian ministries. Publicly, Prigozhin and his fighters have criticized Russian generals and defense officials for their performance on the battlefield. Prigozhin is trying to advance his own interest in Ukraine, and Wagner is making military decisions based largely on what they will generate for Prigozhin in terms of positive publicity. We continue to assess that Wagner currently has approximately 50,000 personnel deployed to Ukraine, including 10,000 contractors and 40,000 convicts. Our information indicates the Russian Defense Ministry has reservations about Wagner's recruitment methods. Despite this, we assess that it is likely that Wagner will continue to recruit right out of Russian prisons. Due to recent events, we assess that it is likely there are mounting tensions between Russian officials and Mr. Prigozhin. I also want to discuss a little bit North Korea's ongoing support for Russia's military operations against Ukraine.
Dude, they want
by
war,
providing
bro. I told
arms
you.
and ammunition to Wagner.
That's what they're going to do.
In part because of our sanctions and export controls,
gonna be
Russia
a war.
is searching for arms from foreign countries, including through Wagner. In recent weeks, we have seen North Korean officials falsely deny that they have provided arms to Wagner. As we have said publicly, North Korea delivered infantry rockets and missiles into Russia for use by Wagner toward the end of last year. So today, we are releasing some imagery of this initial delivery. This imagery shows that on November 18th, 5 Russian rail cars traveled from Russia to North Korea. On the next day, November 19th, North Korea loaded those rail cars with shipping containers, and the train returned to Russia. Now, while we assess that the amount of material delivered to Wagner...
Wagner is a private military contractor for Russia. They're kind of like the Russian special forces that are not legit.
...actions, and we urge these deliveries to Wagner immediately.
The Wagner, but
we are
also
going
known
further
as the Wagner.
by taking action against Wagner itself. Last month, the Department of Commerce designated Wagner as a military end user, which means we expanded the entity listing of Wagner to ensure that it cannot access equipment anywhere in the world based on U.S. technology or production equipment. Today, we are announcing additional actions that we are taking to help Ukraine defend itself against Russian and Wagner forces. First, the Department of Trade...
Wait, hold on. I hate how they say helping Ukraine defend itself. That's not what they're doing. They are defending Ukraine. We are defending Ukraine.
3581 as amended.
They're not defending themselves.
In coordination with this
that.
designation, we will also impose additional sanctions next week against Wagner and its support network across multiple continents. These actions recognize the transcontinental threat that Wagner poses, including through its ongoing pattern of serious criminal activity. With these actions, and there will be more to come, our message to any company that is considering providing support to Wagner is simply this. Wagner is a criminal organization that is committing widespread atrocities and human rights abuses, and we will work relentlessly to identify, disrupt, expose, and target those who are assisting Wagner. Second, as we have stated previously, the arms transfers from the DPRK are in direct violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions. So today, we shared information on these violations with the Security Council's DPRK Sanctions Committee panel of experts. We will continue to raise these violations at the Security Council alongside our allies and partners. And third, of course, and I think you saw Secretary Austin and Chairman Milley and Ramstein today at the 8th iteration of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, we are continuing to provide Ukraine with the weapons and equipment that it needs to defend itself. And you saw today the significant new package of security assistance, which included more than 500 armored vehicles, including Bradleys, Stryker combat vehicles, mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, otherwise known as MRAPs, and of Humvees, all in addition to the armored vehicles that we have already announced. Now, this package also contains critical additional air defense capabilities, including both more air defense systems and more surface-to-air missiles, as well as more ammunition for the artillery systems and the HIMARS, the advanced rocket systems, that the U.S. has already previously provided to Ukraine. Look, we've been clear, and the President has been consistent. We're going to continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes to defend itself, to defend its sovereignty and to defend its territorial integrity. You saw those actions today, and everything we're doing.
They need to
as well
stop saying
with
defend
respect to,
themselves,
North
'cause
Korea
they're
and
not.
Wagner also reinforces those efforts.
Make no mistake, Ukraine is not defending himself.
Questions?
We are defending Ukraine via the
Thank you.
military
Can you explain what the
and
practical
monetary
effect
support.
is of this designation of a transnational criminal organization?
It will open up additional avenues for us to continue to not only sanction Wagner and put more squeeze on their ability to do business around the world, but will assist others in doing the same. It will broaden the network of nations and institutions that will be able to stop doing business with Wagner.
And then can I just ask one other question on Ukraine? What is the level of frustration here at the White House over Germany's position on giving tanks to Ukraine, especially since Germany doesn't have to give their own tanks, they just have to allow another country to send tanks to Ukraine?
We're working not only in lockstep with the Ukrainians, but with allies and partners all over the world. And these are all decisions that each nation makes for itself, sovereign decisions. We aren't arm twisting.
Yeah, bullshit.
And nobody's arm twisting us.
Bullshit.
We are working inside what
Zelensky addressed a joint session of Congress. Don't say we're not being arm
with the
twisted.
defense and security
Come on,
assistance
dude.
that it needs. Germany, obviously a strong NATO ally, but they have stepped up. They have provided a lot of equipment, including some air defense and some armored vehicles of their own to Ukraine. And they have, as we have, evolved their support to Ukraine over time as the war has evolved and changed. And we are just in a different phase now in this war. And so we're all talking about what kinds of collective capabilities can be provided.
Way in the back.
Yes, John. Thanks, Tim. John, you've been asked this question many times. When you say you will continue to support Ukraine as long as they want, what do you mean by that? As long as they need, what do you mean by that? What winning looks like for you in Ukraine?
Well, as long as it takes means as long as it takes, and it means that I'm unable to give you a date certain on the calendar for when that support won't be necessary anymore. It's necessary now. It's going to be necessary in coming weeks and months for certain, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the need as best we can for Ukraine. And you, what does winning look like? President Zelensky gets to determine what victory looks like. We're not dictating that to him either. What we've said is we're going to continue to help them defend themselves, defend their sovereignty, win back their territory as they should, as they must, and to defend their citizens and their infrastructure.
What territory? Crimea do you want them to retake Crimea?
Crimea is Ukraine, and decisions about parts of Ukraine that Ukrainian armed forces are going to fight over or fight in or strike, that's up to President Zelensky and his military leaders.
Thank you very much, Karine and John. I have a question about Brazil. President Lula said he's coming to the White House February 10. So my first question is, can you confirm the date?
I can confirm that we look forward to seeing President Lula early next month.
And this week, President Biden said that the institutional structures in Brazil are collapsing. Is the White House concerned that the risks remain high in Brazil?
Are we going into Brazil next?
In Brazil is still
Is that our job now,
The
too?
president said at the time of those violent protests that we have confidence in Brazil's democratic institutions, and we certainly have confidence
Bullshit.
in the way the president has been handling himself throughout that time and afterward.
Bullshit.
And again, we look forward to welcoming him here at the White House and to having more and deeper discussions about improving and deepening the relationship between the United States and Brazil.
And when it comes to investigations that are taking place in Brazil right now, did the administration offer any kind of assistance to Brazil, in either cooperation from U.S. law enforcement or intel agencies?
I think we made it clear at the time that we'd be happy to support in any way that we can. I'd leave it to Brazilian officials to talk about their investigation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karine. Thanks, Karine. Thanks.
Admiral. First on Wagner, Can you talk about what sanctions are on the table against North Korea, given the fact that you've already identified them as supporting Wagner?
I don't have anything to report right now in terms of specific sanctions. That's why today we brought it up to the panel of experts on the UNSC Resolutions Committee, and we'll see where that conversation goes. But we're certainly not going to rule out the possibility for additional sanctions if that's deemed fit inside the UN.
Secondly, on the tanks, can you just help us understand how badly Ukraine needs these advanced battle tanks right now, or is it not time sensitive?
No, it's absolutely. We recognize that it's a need, a relevant and critical need for the Ukrainians. So, pardon me for repeating myself, but I think it's important to remember what kind of fighting we're talking about here. It's rough terrain and it's open ground, a lot of it in the Donbass. I've described it a bit like Kansas, a lot of farmland, and mostly towns and villages that are not that big, not major industrial cities. And so when you're fighting in an area like that, and we fully expect, the Ukrainians fully expect, that the fighting in the Donbass will continue here for weeks and months ahead, combined arms maneuver, which is a fancy way of saying that you want to be able to maneuver on the ground quickly, effectively, with enough firepower against adversary ground forces. And so these vehicles, all of them, I know we're fixated on tanks, and I get that, but it's not just tanks. I mean, the Bradley fighting vehicles, which are they're tracked vehicles, they kind of look like a tank, but they're not. They don't have the same firepower as a tank. And these Strikers, which are 8-wheeled vehicles, but also they're very nimble, they're very fast, and they can deliver infantry troops on an open battlefield with much greater speed than if they didn't have those kinds of vehicles. And they are protected, they're armored. That's why we stress the armor capability here. Tanks also provide an ability to move efficiently around a battlefield, but of course they have much more firepower. And so it's perfectly understandable why President Zelensky, facing what he's facing in the Donbass and expecting to face those same threats going forward in coming weeks, would want some tanks, additional tanks. It's not like he doesn't have any, but additional tanks to support his offensive and defensive operations in that particular part of the country.
Given what you just said, because the talks failed in Germany, does that change the U.S.'s position on sending the M1 Abrams at all?
I don't know that I would describe talks as failing in Germany.
Not progressing to the sense of,
I mean, if you're talking about the Ramstein meeting, I mean, my goodness, there was an awful lot of contributions coming out of today's contact group, and a lot of it had to do with the kinds of capabilities,
You full of shit,
armored included, and artillery that the Ukrainians have been asking for the fight that they're in.
Yeah.
Look, when it comes to the Abrams tank, we've said we're going to continue to talk to the Ukrainians about their needs, and we're going to continue to meet them as best we can, and we'll do that. I don't have any decisions with respect to additional capabilities or systems like the Abrams to talk to today, but we're in constant communication with the Ukrainians about that. The Abrams is a powerful system. There's no doubt about it. It's also very expensive to operate, very expensive to fuel, very expensive to maintain, and it requires a lot of training. So there's a lot that goes into that when we are talking about what we're going to do to support Ukraine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karine. John, I have two questions. First one on Wagner. What's your assessment on Wagner efficiency, success on the ground? Is Wagner better than the traditional Russian forces?
Well, Wagner would have you believe that. If you listen to Mr. Prigozhin and read his press releases, he would have you believe that he alone is achieving all the military victory in Ukraine. I will say this: they have been largely responsible for and in command of efforts in Bakhmut, in that town north of Bakhmut called Soledar, both mining towns. Go figure. And that has caused, again, consternation with the Russian Defense Ministry. I will also say, and I've said this before, they have made incremental progress in both those areas. Now, we hold today that both towns are still contested. The Ukrainians haven't given them up. But there's no doubt that the Russians have made some incremental progress there. But they have done it at an extraordinary cost. And I'm not talking about Russian soldiers. I'm talking about Wagner convicts. I mean, greater than 90% of the thousands of casualties that Wagner alone, forget the Russian army for a minute, have sustained, have been convicts, have been ex-prisoners that they've just plucked out of jails and put into the fight with little or no training, and no organizational capability whatsoever. So it has come at a cost. The last thing I'll say on this is, and I don't want to predict where it's going to go, but even if they are successful in Bakhmut or Soledar, it's not going to strategically change the dynamics on the battlefield. It's not going to set the Ukrainians back to a degree where they're all of a sudden on their back foot and they're losing. Now, obviously, the Ukrainians don't want to give up either town, and who could blame them? They're Ukrainian towns. They should be fighting for them, and we're trying to help them do that. But I think we need to keep in perspective what significance there may be, or in this case may not be, to either town falling. They are both mining towns, gypsum in Bakhmut and salt up in Soledar, and we think that also has a role to play in why Mr. Prigozhin is so adamant on pouring, just literally throwing bodies into a meat grinder to get these two towns. It's very much in keeping with his modus operandi in places like Africa, where he's going after mining rights and mining capabilities.
Question on Haiti. Any progress on the internationally respected forces on the ground? Any discussion further with Canada after the?
We're still discussing with certainly with our Canadian counterparts, and you saw the President, Prime Minister Trudeau, talk about this in Mexico City. Those conversations are continuing, not just with Canada, but multilaterally with other allies and partners about the concern. Sorry.
Brazil too.
I don't have a list of all the countries we're talking to, but clearly we're talking to other allies and partners about the situation in Haiti. We're looking for additional ways to hold to account the criminal organizations, the thugs, the gangs that continue to propagate violence and instability there in Haiti. But I don't have anything specific with a multinational force to speak to today. Those conversations are ongoing.
We have to wrap it up. Go ahead, James, in the back of the room.
Karine, thank you. Admiral, thank you. I have two questions about the Middle East. The first is focused on U.S.-Saudi relations. The decision on production levels by OPEC Plus that so incensed the administration was announced on October 5. That prompted the administration to vow that there would be a recalibration of the U.S.-Saudi relationship, and as a feature of that some kind of adverse consequences would be imposed on the Saudis. We are now closing in on February. It seems to me that whatever consultations the administration would have wanted to pursue internally and with members of Congress on the Hill have had ample time to unfold at this point, and no such consequences have been announced. Do you want the Saudis to understand that there will be no consequences?
I beg to differ, James. I mean, you saw shortly after that decision that Congress even put more restrictions on arms sales to Saudi Arabia. So there's already been, just in terms of arms sales, an effect on Saudi Arabia. And the discussions continue. We didn't say we were going to do some sort of homework assignment and get back to you in 2 weeks. We said we were going to continue to look at this relationship to make sure that it's best serving the American people and our national security interests, and the president's going to keep doing that. That said, and I've said this many times before, Saudi Arabia is a strategic partner. It's an important relationship for both our countries, and so we have to be mindful of the shared interest and common security challenges that we both face.
On Iran, can you attest that since President Biden took office, Iran has not diminished its breakout time?
I'm not going to talk about intelligence matters that I am not allowed to talk about here at the podium with respect to specific breakout time for the Iranians. What I can tell you, James, is that we continue to believe that their breakout time is shortening because there's no deal in place. The president's been clear that we are not going to allow Iran to achieve a nuclear weapons capability. He's serious about that.
So you're telling us that absent a renewed JCPOA, you have no options for keeping their breakout time where it was?
That is not what I'm saying at all. I said the president said we're going to make sure that Iran cannot achieve a nuclear weapons capability. We're not focused on the Iran deal right now. Iran decided that they weren't going to take the negotiations seriously and instead decided to brutalize their own people and to support Russia's war in Ukraine. And so that's where our focus is. But we also have to make sure that we have all the capabilities and resources available to us in the region and beyond to defend our national security interests. That's what the president said. That's what we're focused on.
Thank you. There has been said that it detained an American citizen that they say was suspected of gathering biological intelligence. It's been a day now. Has the administration been able to make contact, been in touch? Anything you can say about that?
I don't have an update for you on that. Let me take the question and see if we can get you something. I don't have an update for you.
Can I ask you one more Russia-related question? The Coast Guard yesterday off Hawaii said that they were keeping track of a Russian sort of spy ship, intelligence gathering ship. At what point does that concern you? At what point is that so unusual that we need to figure out exactly what they're doing?
It's not unusual. I mean, obviously, we're mindful of it, and we're going to continue to monitor. I think you saw our commanders out in the Pacific talk about that. We'll obviously monitor that, but it is not completely atypical behavior for the Russians. And, the fact that we see it, we talked about it, we know they're there, I think tells you that we take it seriously.
Seriously, but not concerned.
I didn't say that at all. I mean, of course, we take it seriously. I mean, we understand that the Russians are going to try to collect intelligence through a variety of different means. That's not new. What I'm saying is it's not a completely new phenomenon. It's not something we haven't seen before, and we know how to treat it. We know how to deal with it.
Jeff, last question.
Thanks very much. Two questions, John. First, on the North Korea aspect, how do you judge where they're getting money to help Russia if it's a country that reports show is having trouble feeding its own citizens?
Yeah, not every country that should observes the sanctions regime. So they are still able to trade with countries like Russia and with China. Obviously, that's a whole different set of problems. But they are able to skirt sanctions to continue to funnel money into their economy. But let's keep it in perspective. This is not a burgeoning economy. This is not a country that is wealthy by any stretch or is necessarily viable and flexible in the global economy.
And one follow-up on Darlene and Weeja's questioning. What does Germany, from your perspective, need to hear now, either from the United States or from the rest of the NATO allies before giving a green light to those Leopard tanks?
I don't think they need to hear anything specific from the United States other than what we've been saying, Jeff, which is that these are sovereign decisions. We respect them. We welcome them. We do believe that there is a need for armored capability, including tanks inside Ukraine. And the Leopard tank is a terrific system. Very, very modern, very effective. And so I think we've been nothing but clear, privately and publicly, with Germany and all our allies and partners, that if you can meet a need that the Ukrainians have, then we obviously want to see you do that. And again, I point you back to today in Ramstein. I mean, so many nations showed up to contribute and to offer additional capabilities, including in the armored space to Ukraine. So I mean, I think again we've been very consistent on this.
Guys, we don't have a lot of time, so thank you so much, John.
Bullshit. You have
Have a
nothing
good weekend.
going on.
All right, happy 2-year anniversary to us.
Worthless asshole.
Anyway, all right, today marks 2 years since President Biden and Vice President Harris were sworn in to office, as you all know. In the past 2 years, we have seen significant economic growth, and President Biden built the most historic legislative record since the Johnson administration. In fact, over the last 24 months, nearly 11 million jobs have been created, including 750,000 manufacturing jobs. The unemployment rate is
No new
near
jobs
a
created.
50-year low. Nearly 10.5 million Americans have applied to start a new small business. Inflation is now at its lowest since October of 2021. We funded 7,900 projects through the bipartisan infrastructure law, reaching over 4,000 communities all across the country. And private companies have announced nearly $300 billion in investments across the United States. The president will mark today's anniversary with nearly 200
300 million,
bipartisan
you
mayors
liar.
from
You
across
just
the
said
country,
billion.
which will be happening very, very soon. And you will hear more from both the president and some of our nation's mayors who are here today after the briefing. Really quickly, I have one thing that I want to share with all of you, which is...
Hold on, she's lying. Look at it. It says gas prices down $1.60, which is patently false. Okay, the national average right now is over $3. In January 20th of 2020, the national average was $2.53. Liar!
White House reception for new members of Congress. On Thursday, the president will deliver remarks on our economic progress
Bullshit.
since taking office. That
Bullshit.
evening, the White House will host a Lunar New Year reception in the East Room. And of course, per usual, we will have more to share as the days go by. Okay, Darlene, welcome. I feel like I haven't seen
That's
you
why
in a
she
long
skipped the
time.
gas price.
Okay, I always say that to Josh.
The
and he's
national
like, "Hmm."
the national average right now is, what did I say it was in 2020? The national average in 2020 was $2.53. The national average today is $3.39. She's not going to talk about that.
The Vice President deliver a speech on abortion rights in the state of Florida, and specifically in the state capital of Tallahassee.
So as you know, Florida is an important state as we're talking about fighting for women's health care for a few reasons. And let me just run through them. Florida has an abortion ban.
It's not women's health care when
which
they're
is
killing
on the
babies.
books. So that's number one. It is the third largest state in the country, as you all know, and is surrounded by several states around its border with even more restrictive abortion laws, and those, bans, which are in place as well. And because Florida's ban is less stringent than in the neighboring states, the state has increasingly become a place where women can go to access care there. Yet right now, the state is considering an even more extreme ban on the books, which would be devastating not just for Florida women, but if you think about, again, the southern region, if you think about the states that Florida borders. And so it is important in this moment that we are currently in. And also, it was the first state that the vice president visited after the devastating situation that we received just a couple months ago. And so, again, this is something that after the Dobbs decision, so she felt it would be a good state for the.
Whoa. She also says right there, what'd she say? Record small business starts, 10.5 million, which is weird because that's not true. It's just not true. We average 4.4 million new businesses that are started every year. 2020, which she's including, saw a 24% increase from 2019, and it was 51% higher than the 2010 to 2019 average. Do you know why? Do you know why in 2020 there was a big increase? Do you know why? Who knows why? Because of COVID. So her saying that all of these, new businesses start record highs, it's not true. She is lying to you. Lying.
Here or anything, new developments coming from here.
Pisses me off, bro.
But as
They
it
just lie.
relates specifically to the investigation, I would refer you to Department of Justice. So I'm not going to comment on that piece at all from here. I'm just going to continue to be prudent and consistent and respect the Department of Justice process. As it relates to his travel, as you know, he often travels to Delaware on the weekends. I just don't have anything else to share. But anything related to the legal process, I would refer you to the White House Counsel Office. I'm going to try and go around here. Joey, I haven't gone through
Yeah, thank you. What was the White House's reaction to Governor Ron DeSantis' education department blocking the teaching of AP African American Studies, saying it violates Florida's new state law and, quote, significantly lacks educational value?
And I'll talk about that.
The White House have concerns about this action by the
Florida fucked up
DeSantis
there.
administration?
So first, I want to be very clear. The administration does not dictate any curriculum for local schools. That is not something that we do here. But there is something that we do want to comment. It is incomprehensible that to see that this is what this ban or this block, to be more specific, that DeSantis has put forward. If you think about the study of Black Americans, that is what he wants to block. And again, these types of actions aren't new. They are not new from what we're seeing, especially from Florida, sadly. Florida currently bans teachers from talking about who they are and who they love, as we've talked about many times here in this briefing room. They have banned more books in schools and libraries than almost every other state in the country. And let's not forget, they didn't block, be more clear, I want to make sure I'm using the right word here. They didn't block AP European history. They didn't block our music history. They didn't block our art history. But the state chooses to block a course that is meant for high-achieving high school students to learn about their history of arts and culture. And
she's right in this regard. She's right, and I'll tell you why after.
Again.
It's an elective
and
course.
I will just leave it there.
It's
Leave
an
it
elective
there to
course.
make your
Florida
own,
fucked up in this
to make your
regard.
own determination
It's
of
an
why
elective.
this occurred and why this happened.
You're
Again,
not
it is
automatically
our
enrolled in the
place,
course.
To direct
Students have
or
to choose to take that
be
course.
involved in any local school curriculum, but this is concerning.
Thanks, Karine. You mentioned lawmakers will be back in town next week. There's a new-ish Speaker of the House.
I know. I just pissed off a lot of you guys, but whatever. That's the truth.
So I know there's been reporting on this. I don't have a date to confirm from here about a potential meeting with Speaker, the newly minted, as you just trying to say, Speaker McCarthy. The president has, as I just mentioned at the top, as you just said, Phil, a series of meeting with, is going to have a series of meeting with leadership in Congress to talk about a range of issues that matter to the American people. Again, don't have anything to confirm.
Phil C. said you bet the curriculum had CRT aspect to it or something like that. Actually, there was nothing listed in Florida's press release saying they banned it. They actually wouldn't go as far to say even the reason why they banned it, just saying it didn't adhere with Florida law.
A specific date to announce from here.
Just for clarity's sake, when a meeting happens with the Speaker, if the Speaker brings up the debt limit, would the President reiterate the
It's
position
not
you guys have confirmed
CRT.
on?
Well, I also,
Teaching African history is not critical race theory. You do understand that, right? Come on. Like, people aren't that dumb.
really very clear. I've said it. The president has said it. It is something that has been repeated when you think about dealing with the debt limit. When you think about what Congress has been able to do the last 3 times with the last administration, and it's a responsibility that they have. It is a basic responsibility that Congress has to deal with the debt ceiling. And so we have been clear on this. The president has been clear on this. It should not be used as a political weapon. We should not be putting it in a hostage situation. We should be dealing with this in a way that is responsible. We're talking about the American people. We're talking about jobs. And more broadly, this is a president that I just talked through the first 2 years of this presidency and what he has been able to do with the economy, building an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. And the president wants to continue to build on our successes. And
it's an elective class, guys. Like, I see you in the chat. It's an elective. Are you saying that kids should not have the opportunity to learn about what they want to learn about as an AP elective course?
okay.
Come on, dude.
Pool needs to.
You guys don't believe that shit.
So, isn't it
no
customary
way.
to have a meeting with the Speaker and the first Speaker of Congress returning? Is this in effect a snub of Speaker McCarthy, and how should we take this?
No, look, the president is looking forward to meeting with Speaker McCarthy. We are. I just don't have a date to share with all of you at this time. But he is looking forward to meeting with Speaker McCarthy and to.
As a meeting about the debt limit specifically.
Well, no, I mean, look, it's going to be about a range of issues, right? And when the president speaks to members, when he has meetings with members, he talks about a range of issues. I don't want to get ahead of a meeting that has not been locked in. It's a little bit
Biden's
of a
going to be
hypothetical
speaking.
here. But again, when
That's
the
why they're all
president
going.
normally talks to congressional members, when he has meetings with them, there are a range of issues that are talked about. But we have been very, very clear from here about where we stand when it comes to the debt ceiling. I have been clear, the president has been clear, it should not be used as a political football. But again, he's looking forward to meeting with the speaker and continue to build on that relationship.
Does the president have a view on whether it should be suspended or whether it should be increased? Under Trump, 3 times it was suspended and then snapped
That
back
is,
in.
look, we think that Congress should deal with this in a bipartisan fashion, as they have about 78 times in the past. This is something that Congress has done. It is their basic responsibility as a congressional member, and that's what we want to see. Anything else about the specifics, that's up to Congress. But this is something that needs to be dealt with. We're talking about jobs, right? We're talking about seniors. We're talking about veterans. Right? We're talking about real life potential issues that could affect Americans across the country. So it should not be used in a way to hold the debt ceiling in hostage, right? because they want to cut Social Security, right? Because Republicans, MAGA Republicans in the House want to cut Social Security, or they want to cut Medicare. That should not be where we are right now. We should not be moving forward in conversations about the debt ceiling in that way. They should be dealing with it.
What does the president mean when he said no regrets? Because he's also said he takes very seriously the handling of classified documents. So I'm unclear what he means about no regrets.
So I'm not going to comment further from what the president has said yesterday. I think he laid out his thoughts. He was asked about it. He laid out his thoughts of whatever question he was asked. I'm not going to get into specifics, or I'm not going to go beyond what the president has said. But I will reiterate from here that and basically what he said to all of you many times at this point, that he does indeed take classified information and seriously. He does indeed take classified documents seriously. I'm just not going to go beyond that. I would refer you to the White House counsel's office for any specifics on the president's comments or how the process is moving forward.
Can you just shed light on was he referring to sort of the rollout of the information, or about the timeline, or I'm just unclear about what he's not regretting.
And Kelly O, I totally understand the question. I totally understand why you may want clarity here, but I'm going to be prudent. I'm going to be consistent here. I'm not going to comment on the ongoing process, the legal process from here. I will just let the president's words stand for itself. I'm going to go around.
Immediately following this show, guys, I'm going to do a whole episode of The Rational American, just so you know.
Update on the president getting a physical. He hasn't had
like
one in a
complete
year.
with the intro and everything.
If he intends to get one.
Yeah, I've spoken to this a couple of times. He will have one by the time the end of this month is out, and so we will do the same that we did the last time. And back in 2021, we provide with full transparency his medical physical. And so, again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to be transparent. We will share the information. We will have more to share about that before the month is over.
And then I also wanted to ask, without speaking about the investigation or the special counsel specifically, if you could walk us through a little bit of what the process in general is supposed to be when classified documents are improperly found, and if the White House has any role in those circumstances, if they refer anything to the Office of Director of National Intelligence, or sort of what that process should be. Again, sort of not necessarily referencing the current situation, but just in general.
I hear the question. It's been asked to me many different ways, many different times.
I'm trying yet another.
And I appreciate the effort. Again, I am going to refer you on the particulars of the process and how it goes down and how it works. I'm going to refer you to the White House counsel office, my colleagues there. They will be happy to engage with you and listen to your question and answer it the best that they can. I am just not going to be speaking it from here, and my colleagues who have already been engaging with many of your colleagues and probably you over the last 2 weeks, I'll let them take care of that. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Karine. Could you just speak a little bit more about why is it Vice President Harris who's going to be giving the speech, in particular her, on Sunday? And does the president have a message for the people at the right, the March for Life march?
Sure. So as you know, the March for Life march happens every year. And so we support peaceful, free, even when we disagree with it. Clearly, it is not an issue, and their point of view we do not agree with. Look, because the president believes that it is critical. It is a critical pillar of democracy to do that in a peaceful way, to march. And so, of course, we support that. But that said, we want to make sure that we continue to underscore the ongoing attacks on women's rights to make their own health care decision. This is something that the Biden-Harris administration has taken very seriously. This is something that you have heard us take executive action on. And this is an issue that we're going to continue to ask Congress to make sure that they take actions on this as well as we go into the next couple of days into what would have been the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. So this is an important issue, a critical issue. Let's not forget during the midterms, voters made themselves very clear. They want us to make sure here in Congress and at the White House and the federal government that we protect our people's rights. And they want to see that. And so that is how we see the March for Life. Again, we support peaceful speech, free of speech, peaceful march, even though we don't agree with their particular policy or issue.
The Vice President, why is she doing the speech?
Give me 1 second. If anybody wants to go and cover the president, you're free to do so. You do not feel, if you're confirmed. That's right. No.
It's not like he's going to answer
Yeah, I
any
know.
questions.
Feels like if folks have been registered and confirmed to go, please feel free. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Vice President, she's giving the speech.
Yeah. So look, you've seen the vice president be a leader on this issue over the last several months since the Dobbs decision came down this past summer. It is not unusual. I had just mentioned that after Florida was the first state that she visited after the Dobbs decision, and so she's going back. And the importance of Florida, right? The importance of where it is located.
DeSantis should arrest her.
And why we think it's important.
He should arrest her.
Clearly, is important to go
charge her with the immigration crisis. She is the border czar, right?
But again,
charge
the
her.
vice president has been a leader on this. So has the president. You've heard
You know
from
what I'm
both
saying?
of them multiple times. You've seen her bring roundtables together to really try to figure out how to deal with this critical issue of protecting a woman's right to make her own decision about her health care. And so you'll continue to see that from this White House for sure. Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Greg. Yesterday, the former president, President Trump, called for the jailing of a pair of reporters from Politico who published that leaked Supreme Court opinion last year, as well as the editor who supervised them and the publisher of Politico. And I know there was a White House statement that went out earlier today, but I was hoping you could weigh in a little further on how the president feels about that sort of talk and his commitment to press freedom.
I can tell you that the president believes the freedom of press is part of the bedrock of our American democracy. That is something that he truly believes, and that we should continue to fight for. And calling for egregious abuses of power in order to suppress the constitutional rights of reporters is an insult. It is a complete insult to the rule of law and undermines fundamental American values and traditions. So instead, it's the responsibility. It's the responsibility of all leaders to protect First Amendment rights, and that's what the president believes, and that's what he's going to continue to do to make sure that we protect those rights.
To follow up on that, he's sat for very few interviews since he took office, particularly with print publications. Can you commit to making him more available for one-on-ones with both print and other outlets this year?
Here's what I can tell you. The president is going to engage with reporters almost on a daily basis. He did it yesterday. He took questions from your colleagues yesterday when he was in California. And
he answered like 2 questions, bro.
And he believes that's important. He believes
Let's see
it's
if
an
he engages
opportunity
today. I guess I'll have to cover
when he communicates
it.
with all of you or answers your question, he believes it's an important you're an important vessel to the American people, right? Pushing out what he is doing on behalf of the American people. He does that almost every day. Almost every day when he's in front of all of you, he takes a question. That's the commitment
He takes
that
a
I
question.
can make from here, from the president. I'm going to move around. Christina?
Thank you for taking my question, Karine. You were just mentioning a possibility of executive actions on behalf of the American people. I was just wondering if the administration is considering any help or relief for thousands of immigrants that were paroled into this country before the agreement of the $30,000 a month. They're here. They don't have jobs. They're depending on different communities, charity work, and some of them have told us that they don't have court dates for another 2 years.
So a couple of things. I'm not sure what executive action I think I was talking about. I may have been talking about something else. I'm not quite sure. Okay. Right, you're talking about. So look, the parole program that the President Biden announced is, because I know that's usually how this question is connected to, is limited to individuals who are seeking to enter the United States in a legal, orderly manner. The folks who got here before the program was announced remain in immigration enforcement procedures under Title VIII. If an immigration judge determines they have a legal basis to stay in the country, they can. If they don't, they will be subjected to removal as required by law. Of course, since day one, the president has taken this issue very seriously. That's why he put forth a comprehensive immigration reform and to fix the system that we currently have. And so that's why he continues to ask. He continues to ask Congress to take action. He continues to talk to and ask Republicans, instead of doing political stunts like we have seen them do over and over again, to actually come to the table and deal with this issue. This is a president who has done more on this issue than any other president. When you think about the record funding that he's been able to put forth, and also trying to figure out multiple ways to deal with immigration, to deal with people to
half the reporters have
come
left because
and come
Biden
to
is doing
legal
a
process. He's
bipartisan
offered many
mayors
avenues
attending
to
a
do
U.S.
that.
conference of
and
mayors.
So, look, he has used
Biden
the
is
tools
gonna
that
be
are
live.
in front
That's
of
why
him
half
to
of
deal
them have
with
left.
Immigration, to deal with border security. But again, he needs Congress, especially Republicans in Congress, to stop doing political stunts and to come to the table and actually deal with an issue that matters to the American people in a real concrete way, not in a way that we're doing political stunts and putting people's lives at risk.
That's exactly it, Hospris. That's what they were asking for, a comprehensive
proclamation
amnesty.
today, marking what would have been the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, said that he would continue to use executive authority to protect women's rights. What other actions are on the table? And if there are other possible actions on the table, why hasn't he taken them yet?
So look, we're going to take a look of the tools that the
weird
president
that a
has
pregnant
in front of
lady's
him
sitting
to
there
take to
asking
see if
that
there's
question.
any other executive actions clearly that he can take. But he took some right after the Dobbs decision came down. He took a couple of executive.
Isn't that weird? A pregnant reporter there asking what other actions that Biden is going to take to allow people to go out and kill their babies.
Women's rights.
That's the country
Again,
we live in
the way
now,
that we are
boys and
going
girls.
to really deal
Wow,
with
dude.
what we're seeing currently with Roe v. Wade
Wow.
and making sure that it becomes law is for Congress to act, and that's what you're going to continue to hear from this president. That's what you're going to continue to hear
I think
from the
that
vice
just did
president.
me in right there.
And he's going to certainly, and she will too, use their platform to make that very clear to the American people.
You guys feel like you've exhausted your options?
I'll just say this. I mean, the proclamation pretty much laid it out very clearly. We're going to see what else we can do. But again, it's going to take congressional action to truly deal with this issue. Okay.
Does the president have any concern about the number of job cuts that are happening in the tech sector? Alphabet announced, it's Google's parent company, obviously announced 12,000 job cuts today, follows Microsoft earlier this week, following several thousand from last year as well. Is this something the president is concerned about?
So, of course, we watch very closely when we hear these types of reports of Americans losing jobs. That is something that the president is certainly aware of and watching, and clearly his team. But, there are data that shows, and I mentioned this the other day, that companies are still continuing to grow. That is important, and they're investing in the United States. So those data points exist. We're seeing that. Layoffs remain record low. According to job opening data, the U.S. economy continues to grow. Initial unemployment claims are historically low, and the unemployment rate is a 50-year low. So leading analysts have publicly stated that they do not believe the recent layoffs in the tech industry are indicative of trends in the broader economy. But of course,
Google's
when we
laying off
hear that
12,000
Americans are losing
people
jobs,
nationwide
we certainly watch
today.
that very closely.
One clarification, if I can, on the president's answer yesterday to the documents. He said in that answer that he is doing everything that attorneys are asking him to do, so it was protocol and everything. Was his answer vetted through counsel or anything like that? Can you tell us that?
I mean, it's the same thing that he has said before, which is he and his team are cooperating fully. That's the same. That's the same answer he has given many times, and so has his White House counsel's office. Is that his and his team
Talking about it in the way that he did, that was.
Again, that's nothing new. He has said that before. But again, I'm not going to parse the words of the president. It is, you heard him say what he gave his remarks and make his statement. I'm just not going to dive into that.
And then on the meeting on Tuesday with Democratic members, can you sort of characterize what that meeting is? Is it sort of a temperature taking? Is agendas and priorities are set for the upcoming State of the Union speech?
Well, look, I mean, it is part of the new Congress, right? New leadership with the new Congress is an opportunity clearly ahead of the State of the Union to connect and continue to grow the relationships that he has with leadership. And they're going to talk about a range of issues. It is not uncommon. I think somebody just pointed that to me. I think it was Josh who said, how common it is for the president to meet with leadership at this time. So again, we're doing what the president believes is important as he tries to deliver for the American people, to try and do that bipartisanship that he talked about right after the midterms, because that we understand that's what the American people want to see. And so that's what you're going to see next week with the president. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks. Back on what you said in your answer to Josh about the debt ceiling and the question of entitlements. The Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget said in the fall that what the president was arguing in the lead up to the midterms was that Republicans would cut Social Security, cut Medicare, but that the president was not offering his own specific plan for how to ensure the stability of those programs. There were a few sentences on the campaign website 3 years ago. Does the president have a plan to ensure that Social Security and Medicare will remain solvent in the future? This is now the halfway point of this administration.
The president's plan is that he's going to protect Social Security. He's going to protect Medicare. And what he is saying very, very clearly here, and we have said this, you heard us, as you mentioned, you heard us say it during the fall, is that, we're going to continue to call out Republicans who are threatening. They are threatening to force cuts on Social Security, on Medicare, and critical programs that benefits everyday Americans because they want to play this political gamesmanship. And that is something that we are going to call out. As it relates to the debt ceiling, this is something that should be done in a bipartisan way. That's what the president believes. That's what he has been saying very, very clearly. We should not put on the chopping blocks the very programs that matter to American people. Let's not forget, they've already paid in to those programs. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
I'll be right
this
back.
is something that Americans have paid into, and Republicans want to cut that.
I guess my question, though, is, what they say is that Medicare in 3 to 5 years will not be able to meet all of its obligations. Social Security, 12 years, will not be able to meet all of its obligations. The president's been president for 2 years. He hopes to be president for 6 more years. When is he going to lay out a specific plan? Will we hear it at the State of the Union? Will it come in 2023?
What we're saying is, and I just said this, these are programs that the American people pay into. These are programs that are veterans, that are seniors, right? Americans across the country really value and need. And when you have these MAGA Republicans in the House who are saying they're going to hold the debt ceiling unless those things are cut, that is a problem. That is not how this works. I mentioned 78 times that the debt ceiling has been dealt with. 3 times in the last administration. So we should not be doing this with conditions. It should be done without conditions, and we should not be negotiating around it. And let me just give you a couple of validators, because I think it's important. This came from Leader McConnell, who said America must never default on its debt. It's never has and never will. Neil Bradley, who I think I talked about a little bit from Chamber of Commerce a couple days ago, you're talking about wiping out the very underpinnings of the U.S. economy. I mean, that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to hold programs that are critical and important, again, to our veterans, to our seniors, because they're trying to play political games. And that is the thing that the president's going to continue to call out against. Go ahead, Alicia. Oh, he is? I'm so sorry, guys. The president's about to speak. I can't step on the president. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Poor Simon.
Happy Friday.
Poor Simon doesn't get to ask a question, like always. Poor fella. Like, that guy always tries. He's always in there. He's always doing his job, and they never, ever let him ask a question. We do have the Biden thing up, and you'll hear it as soon as it does come up. But anyway, should I do a show now, or should I? Hey, you know what? We'll just shoot the shit, and then I'll do my show right after Biden finishes lying about whatever he's going to talk about. But yeah, it's pretty entertaining. I do have a show that I'm going to do right after this, so stand by, and we'll talk about the new Crowder mess. We'll talk about, did you hear that if you cut out coffee, you can help solve the climate crisis? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, I kind of live fact checked the this whole thing I think, this while it was going on about the gas prices. She's like, oh, gas prices have dropped since we took office $1.60. That's not true at all. In fact, gas prices are higher by 80 cents from what they were when they first took office. They don't want to tell you that, though. Mass shootings are also up. They don't want to talk about that. Insane amounts of violence, fentanyl overdoses, youth killing other people by driving cars. Like, everything is up in this country. The chance of you getting pushed onto a subway train or onto a subway track in New York City has never been higher. Okay, so they're never going to talk about that kind of stuff because that would be, just a little bit too honest for them. But yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and I do want to wait because I want to do it, and then I'll take it, and then I'll put it up as a podcast and start trying to do this podcast thing more seriously. What's kind of interesting is my video on YouTube may actually be monetized today. I have no idea. Did you guys see ads when you started watching on YouTube? I don't know. Yeah, and Connie said, yeah, if you stop breathing, you help the planet, according to the morons. Yes, that's true. I've thought about that as well. Because every time you exhale, that's CO2, right? CO2 is apparently bad for the ozone. So just why don't all the leftists that want to go live in a space bubble somewhere, why don't they all just stop breathing? Do the climate, do the world a favor. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy stuff. But Karine is Biden's little liar. Karine, she's not even Biden's little liar. She's Biden's little not going to tell you the truth at all. Do you know what I mean? That's the truth. Someone said, what does a man gain if he saves the world but loses coffee? I don't know. I really don't know. And that's why we're running a sale today. And it's WTF, liberals. And that gets you 10% off everything in our store. Because I saw that New York Post article and I'm like, enough is enough. Enough. The other thing I was going to talk about is this Florida, African history thing. And why, and just, I guess, how conservatives have to pick their battles. You know what? I can edit it out when Biden's speaking. So, yeah, let's do a live show right now. Okay. All right. Okay.
Politics in the United States of America. The left has gotten really left, and the right has gotten really right. Everyone's towing the line, and we're getting nowhere. Fast. This is the Rational American. The Rational American. Common sense has gone out the window, and our passion is to open eyes in hopes that people will take a rational look at what America is actually becoming. Put your feelings aside and let's get real. This is the Rational American, and this is your host, Steve Oatley.
Ooh, boy, do we got a long show today. For anyone that is just tuning in, hi, how you doing? For anyone that is not tuning in, well, where are you? I mean, you haven't, see, that didn't even make any sense. That's how awesome I am. Anyway, today we're going to talk about a bunch of stories. We're going to talk about the Crowder mess, and you could see in my description of this video, in the description of the podcast as well, I kind of had strong words because I'm not really sure if, actually, I am quite sure that this whole thing between Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire is completely fabricated and made up and opportunistic, and we'll talk about that in a second. There's been new revelations since yesterday's video when I first talked about this. So I'll give a synopsis and then we'll go. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about Florida's decision to ban an AP African Studies or African History from select high schools through the College Board. The College Board was trying to present this class. The state of Florida actually banned the program, saying that there was there were gaps in the history which lead to, basically you can make up your own history, is what they were saying. And there was, and I forgot where it is. I had an actual tweet from the state of Florida that talked about it. And I suppose I could look it up, but I'm not going to. But We will read. Let's just start with that one, right? Let's just start with that story because it's probably one of the most contentious things. And see, I have a different approach on this whole thing than everybody else does, because for me, I think there should be no problem for an African studies or African history studies AP course, because what is an AP course? It's called an advanced placement course, and it's an elective. It's not required. You don't have it as a requirement to get an education. Nope, you sign up for it. For example, my son, he's in 7th grade, but he's in 2 AP courses. He's in AP Math and he's in AP Spanish. He's in 2 AP courses that we as parents had to give him permission and give the school permission to put him in those courses. It's not like you can just go and do it. You know what I mean? It's not like the school is saying you must take this course where you're going to learn about something that you don't agree with or whatever. See, I don't even know what the argument would be. You know, a lot of people are just automatically, championing this as a win for CRT. I don't know if this has anything to do with CRT. And frankly, none of you do either. None of the people listening to this show have any idea whether or not this course has anything to do with CRT, because according to the release from the Department of Education in Florida, they didn't say it does. They just said it doesn't follow guidelines set by the state of Florida. So what you're left with wondering is, okay, is this some dramatic overreach, right? Or is this, or is this under the guise of protecting children? Again, the guise of protecting children for a 12th grade AP African history course doesn't really work because, again, it's voluntary. Someone would have to sign their kid up for this. So it's not, but now you can't, because now you can't even opt your kid out of it because the state of Florida has said it's not allowed. It's you can't take it anymore. You know what I mean? Which is, it's very weird to me. It's very weird how so many people are like, yeah, we're fighting CRT, kicking it out of schools, blah, blah, blah. But yeah. All right. So I guess I may just restart this whole thing after. You guys want to hear Joe Biden lie to the American public?
Vice President and Columbus, Ohio Mayor Andy Ginther.
I wish I could just mute fast. Because I don't know. So look at all the phones. Everyone's like, oh, look, this is great. So apparently Joe Biden is going to be giving a speech here. And I was going to, try to do a show. I didn't think it was going to be quite as fast. But there's Joe Biden. We'll see what kind of speech he's going to give. There are media there, but I'm not quite sure if he's going to answer any questions from the media, which is kind of interesting. But I suppose then I'll just go back and just start the show over. But let's see what he's trying to say here. Anything interesting?
We're continuing this incredible tradition of inviting the mayors from the U.S. Conference of Mayors to the White House. It's really an honor. And I'll tell you, as I walked through this iconic building with my family, I couldn't help but notice the picture of bipartisan presidents throughout the years. And I thought that was a wonderful testament to the bipartisan nature of our organization, of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And it was reminded me of a story that my dad once told me. He said that at a particularly difficult moment in Lyndon Johnson.
I don't want to,
The president can't get any worse.
When he goes to speak, then we'll cut into it just in case there is anything relevant at all, because I think it's going to be stupid. I think it's going to be stupid. He's probably not going to answer any questions. He's going to talk. They're all over social media right now, the White House and all their people that are posting everything. They're all over social media right now talking about how Joe Biden has helped the economy. He hasn't really. He's just lied. They say they added 11 million jobs since he took office. We were in the midst of a COVID pandemic where half of the states were still locked down when he took office. So, you got to take that into account, right? Remember the supply chain crisis? Supply chain crisis wasn't necessarily because we didn't have trucks like they tried to say and all that. No. It's because they shut down all the warehouses and made it so employees couldn't work. And whenever an employee coughed, they had to get kicked out and they had to go quarantine and do all that stuff. So, saying that they added 11 million new jobs is what they continuously say. If they said they added back 11 million jobs, because we lost, 14 million, I think, with COVID. If they said they added back, 11 million jobs, then you could argue that that's true, that they added back jobs that were lost because of COVID. But what they're saying is they added new jobs, which is false. They're saying the unemployment numbers are down to the lowest they've ever been, 3.5%, lowest that they've been since 2001 or some crap like that, which again is not false. The reason why the unemployment number is so low is because people are not working. The way they get that number is by people that are accepting unemployment claims. So when they stop accepting unemployment, regardless of whether they have jobs or not, they are not counted anymore as unemployed. They are not actively seeking jobs. They are not counted as that unemployed number. So we do not have an accurate number. We have record number right now of people that are fully able to work, fully capable of working, that are not working and are not collecting any sorts of unemployment, because it is beneficial and it is feasibly possible for people to go out and get food every day, to get rental assistance every day, to get clothing every day, to get everything required and needed to survive without even having to have a job. That is the truth. That is where we are as a country. So that's another number they lied about. They lied today in the White House press conference talking about our national gas price. We know that that's garbage. We know that they're like, oh, we've lowered it $1.60 since, in the past 2 years since we took office. Which is weird, because the national average gas price on January 20th of 2020, guess what it was? And you know what? I just realized 2020, wrong year. So let me look up 2021 gas price. So the national average gas price, where is it? It's going to do that. 231. So so in January, the national average price, well, that's Virginia, national gas price is $2.31. So we are currently nearly $1 more, because I think the national average today is $3.39. So we're currently $1 more than we were 2 years ago when he first took office. But they're saying they dropped it $1.60. Because you may remember June of this or last year, gas prices were through the roof, and we were being told everyone had to button down the hatches, that gas prices were going to raise over $6 per gallon as a national average. Even gas right now is going up again. Gas here is over $3 again. It's like $3.39 a gallon. And it continues to go up. Someone in the chat just said gas is still high in California, right around $4.49, which in reality for California is pretty low, right? Diesel prices are still through the roof, but it's just another fallacy that this administration continues to tell everybody. Oh, gas prices are low, job numbers are low, inflation's going down. It doesn't matter. Inflation is still high. Doesn't matter if inflation's finally going down, because the market is working against the Biden policies and everybody knew this was going to happen. When Biden passed all the CARES Act shit and all the omnibus bills and all those bills for the past 2 years that raised the federal deficit extraordinary amounts, and all the economists were like, this is going to happen. And he's just like, it's not going to happen. It's the same thing as where he's like, people that make under $400,000 are not going to pay more in taxes, which is patently false. I don't make over $400,000 and I'm paying more in taxes. I'm paying more. Everyone that pays property tax, if you live in a state where you pay property tax, personal property tax, like on your vehicles, I bet you got sticker shock last year. I bet you got the sticker shock from hell last year, because I did. I ended up having to pay close to $6,000 for vehicles I didn't even own anymore. In personal property income taxes. Luckily, our home taxes are pretty darn cheap, of what, $1,200 or something a year. But for them, and we're not even in the federal aspect of the taxes yet. Luckily, it's not even luckily, but my company probably had losses in 2022 versus 2021, where we made money and I paid an extraordinary amount of taxes. That's just how it is. That's just what everything is. But the bad part is Biden continuously says, like, oh, it's not real. It's not happening. This is, our tax policies aren't going to affect the individuals. They're not going to, it's all hype. It's all hogwash. Hogwash, as the kids say. Do the kids still say hogwash? I have no idea. They should, because it's a good word. But pretty much that's all that came out of the White House press conference today. We did hear, Defense Secretary John Kirby gets up and he lies to everybody. He talks about the Wagner Group and how, 90%? He said 90% of their soldiers, that are fighting in Ukraine are all convicts. That's something, if you Google that, that's something that the United States media complex has been pushing out for months and months and months. Since last year, they've been pushing that narrative, saying that they're all convicts, saying that they can't go out. It's weird because they're saying they shouldn't be fighting overseas there, right? Convicts shouldn't be able to do it. They all need to be locked up. Whereas here, we're doing the exact opposite, aren't we? The exact opposite is happening here. They just signed, the city council in Washington, D.C., just signed a bill, a law into place. After the city council passed it, the mayor vetoed it, and the city council went over and passed it, which basically decriminalizes a bunch of crap, makes jury trials available for misdemeanor charges. It basically makes it so they're not going to be going after anybody. in D.C., where there's a tremendous amount of crime. And that's happening in cities across the country right now, where, Democrat prosecutors are not pressing charges on violent criminals, or they're, releasing violent criminals off to the streets. It's weird, right? That we have a country here, in this country, where they want to let all the criminals out on the streets, and then you have another country that is employing said criminals and getting them out of prisons to do whatever, and I'm not pro-Ukraine, pro-Russia, I don't give a shit. That's not our country. We shouldn't be focused on what's going on over there. But for some reason, we are. We're going to continuously give more money. So that's essentially what John Kirby was talking about the entire time that he was addressing the media pool during the White House press conference today. He's talking about how the Wagner Group is now going to be considered a international criminal organization, so that way they could try to cease any funding that they provide to them and things like that. All this same garbage that they continuously try to do every single day. And it's crazy. Then Karine Jean-Pierre got up. She gave a couple of the same lines that she always does, especially when it comes to Biden's documents, saying that she's not going to address them. But surprisingly, a lot of the reporters already left to go to the event that you're seeing on your screens now, which is Joe Biden pretending that he actually knows what they're talking about at the Association of Mayors. And we'll listen. When Joe Biden does speak, obviously, I'll stop ranting for a minute. We'll listen to what Joe Biden's going to lie about today. My guess is he's going to talk about how the economy is bouncing back, inflation's down, unemployment numbers are down. Here, let's listen to this guy. Look, he's shaking hands saying, "Do you have any ice cream? I would like some ice cream." That's what he's going to say. But now let's hear what he has to say. I'll shut up for a minute, and we'll see if he answers any questions from the press, which he's not going to.
Thank you. You better sit down.
Oh, he's gonna be speaking for a while.
You don't want this going to my head.
Better sit down, he says.
A kid from Scranton. Look,
he's not from Scranton.
Mayor Suarez, thank you for your leadership at the conference. Excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat.
Cock.
But
I'm sorry.
And Andy, thank you for that introduction. You know,
I guess that
it's wonderful to finally welcome all of you to the White House after not being able to be here because of the pandemic for so long. We appreciate it a great deal. And some of you know I started my career as a county councilman in the state of Delaware, and then I ran for the U.S. Senate because serving as a local official was too hard. They know where you live. They knock on your door. And I've always had enormous respect for the job you do. And by the way, Suarez, you and I have something else in common. You know what it is? We both married way above our station. Way above our station. You all think I'm kidding. Some things are just self-evident. Today is 2 years since I was sworn in as president. And
this is where he's going to lie about jobs, economy, gas price, all that. I called this.
With your help, we've gotten a lot done. I think if you look around the room, we got a lot of cabinet members who are mayors. A lot of mayors. You got old Mitch Landry from Nolans down there, you know. And that's like being mayor of a country.
Racist. He's such a racist.
Yeah, I tell you what. My daughter went down to Tulane University in large part because his dad, it's a long story, but when he was mayor, and I thought she's going to come home talking with this boy talking funny at me, you know what I mean, from Bayou Lafourche or something. Mayor Pete is, even though he's the secretary, they still call him Mayor Pete. And, you know, you got Marty Walsh from Boston. I don't know where Marty is. We got a lot of mayors, and that's why I think we're making such progress. Look, the fact is that, it's fitting that we are here together today, and because you mayors know how to get things done. And that's not hyperbole, it's a fact. Because you have no choice.
Robert, you're a mayor.
Yesterday I was in California. We're grappling with historic California. Start off, the governor looked at me and said, Mr. President, we used to be the 5th largest economy in the world, now we're the 4th. That's true, in the world.
5th largest what? Did it just mute when he said country to make it sound like he said something else?
I said, that means you don't need that $10 billion we just gave you, right? And y'all think I'm kidding, that's what we did, $10 billion. But all kidding aside, he's a great governor and has written well. But look, dealing with historic storms and flooding, you know, when your town or city face a crisis, it's the mayor who gets the first call. I've seen it. I've traveled this country after floods and tornadoes, wildfires, hurricanes. As a matter of fact, I was kidding, but there's a serious piece to it when I pointed out that to the governor, we got to stop taking these helicopter rides, because I went over.
It's pretty cool. We got mayors, school board members, city councilmen that all watch this show. You just patted me on the back
there up in Oregon than the entire state of Missouri. I mean, it's a long, long, long way. A lot of damage. And I want to thank the mayors across the country for doing everything they can to recover and rebuild.
Yeah,
it matters that you're the ones who make sure, as trite as it sounds, that the garbage gets picked up, the potholes get fixed, the buses,
the potholes
you
get
can catch
fixed
to work and be able to continue to be there on time, and so much more of significant consequence. But those things are consequential. You affect people's quality of life more than any other group of people in the world. And mayors know the measure of success isn't how many partisan points you score, it's how many problems you fix. Can you fix the problem? When I came to office, we had a lot of problems.
The battery died, fucker.
Can you hear me?
No, your battery died.
The pandemic was raging. Our economy was reeling.
What is
but we acted
coming
together.
out of his arm? You see that?
Now, 2 years in, it's clearer than ever that our plan's working. We're building the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not just the top down. Because when we do that, by the way, the wealthy do very, very well. And everybody, the poor have a shot, and the middle class can have a little breathing room.
What was that?
An economy that benefits that folks in the heartland as well as in our cities and all across America. And, I remember, as I said, my family, I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. When Cole died when I was in 3rd grade, we had to move. But I go back to Scranton. Everybody's joke is they're from Scranton. Everybody's from Scranton. But think of all the towns you know, and some of you are mayors of, that they go through school.
See, what is
they
that?
want to stay where their family is, where their relatives are, where they know everything.
Or something?
And they have to say, Mom, I got to leave. There's no jobs here. There's no jobs here in my town. I'm serious. I'm deadly earnest. And what we're trying to do is not just rebuild the economy, bring back the pride and the sense of belonging, the sense of I want to stay where I live now, where I'm able to do what I want to do. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do in our cities when people used to move out. But, now they're beginning to move back in. Cities are growing. Not just big cities, small towns as well. The economy, the rewards work where we don't need a college degree to provide for your family. It helps to have that college degree, but you don't need it to provide for your family. 2 years ago this week, 18 million people were out of work. 2 years ago this week. Now the number is under 1.6 million. near the lowest levels in decades.
Because they're not reporting that they don't want to work.
It's as low as it's been in 50 years.
Lies.
We've created 11 million
because
jobs,
nobody wants to work.
750,000 manufacturing jobs. Where in the hell is it written to say we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world in this? I mean it. Not a joke. I got so sick and tired of us exporting jobs and importing product. We're now importing jobs and exporting product. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're doing. No, I really mean it. Because we're beginning to invest in ourselves again because of you all. Over the last 2 years, more Americans applied to start a small business than any year in history, any year on record. They make up 50% of all the economy in America. Fewer families are facing foreclosure or an eviction than before the pandemic. Families in our communities are starting to breathe just a little bit easier. But folks, it's not only that. Pride is coming back to American communities and to American cities. And that's not just on the coast, as I said. It's in every part of the country, including many towns and cities and local communities that have been forgotten for much too long. Much too long. And it's not an accident. It's a strategy. When I came to office, a strategy that we stuck to, even in the face of a lot of criticism, a strategy that we put into action, a strategy to recover and rebuild and invest in America. You know, hesitate a second to just digress a little bit. We used to invest 2% of our GDP in research and development every year. That's what we did in America. But then, along the way, we stopped. We stopped investing in America in research and development. We invest now 0.7%. We used to be number one. Now China is number two. We're number 8. I mean, there's things we've allowed to happen. It's not been conscious. It's just sort of slipped up on us. And the way in which we changed the way we dealt with corporate law, a whole range of things. But we're changing it. And we're changing it. As I said, we're going to export product, not jobs. With your support, I signed the law of the American Rescue Plan to deliver immediate economic relief to families
Which
and communities
screwed over
that need it most.
everybody.
One study found that before the law was passed, 70% of the mayors in America expected to cut critical jobs like teachers and transit workers. 27% of you were facing steep cuts in police department budgets. So we acted. And with the CARES Act we passed under the previous administration, some of it had to go to your legislatures for permission to get the money. I've been the bad guy when I was a senator and as vice president, a pain in the neck. Why do you have to go through the legislature? No, I'm serious. I'm deadly earnest about that. Because you go through the legislature, you can't blame them. They say, I want a piece of my district. But you can apply directly. Often I wrote the cops bill years ago. You didn't have to go to the legislature or governor to determine. You could apply directly. If you qualified, you got it directly. You got the money directly. Well, that's what we're talking about. And things began to change. Instead, we made sure the American Rescue Plan empowered you directly to avoid painful layoffs. You put cops back in the street, firefighters back in the jobs. You kept teachers in classrooms. You asked for the money and you qualified for it. In Knoxville, Tennessee, Mayor Kincannon gave premium pay. Is the mayor here? There you are, Mayor. Well, you gave premium pay to police officers and firefighters to keep them on the job. It was a big deal. In Mesa, Arizona, Mayor Giles, I don't know whether the mayor's here. I got to get people in trouble calling this out. Yeah. Mr. Mayor, how are you? Bought 5 new ambulances, hired behavioral health clinicians to help the fire department in crisis calls. And by the way, you know, when a cop turns off in a domestic violence case or someone's standing on the edge of a bridge, they don't need a cop. They need a psychologist with them. That's why we're putting more people. No, I'm serious. We're beginning to understand this all again.
Oh my God, man! This
And a lot of you are applying for the money and using it for these mental health issues as well.
He's stupid, bro.
There are countless examples. When it comes to public safety, we know the answer is not to defund the police.
Well, yeah, you
not
say
to
that
defund
now.
the police.
You say that now. And everyone who says, I can't listen to this, I'm out, please don't leave. Just stay and watch it.
To make sure we know exactly what's happening, but it's not to defund the police. They need more funding and they need ancillary help as well. And through the American Rescue Plan, $350 billion of state and local governments, and we urged them to make, was available to them to make communities safer. It turned out that one of the largest investments in public safety ever, and every single Republican in Congress voted against it. But a lot of mayors said, you talked to your representative, said, whoa, that, you know, it may be Biden's idea, but not all his ideas are bad. Oh, you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding, you know.
Nobody thinks you
Many
can.
cities from Newark, New Jersey, to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but all kidding aside, have made major investments in community violence intervention initiatives. These studies have shown in some cases they can reduce violent crime up to 60%, particularly among our youth. Doesn't always do that much, but it can do that much. But as you may know better than most, when you see these problems of crime and the opioid epidemic, you know the big part of that is mental health. Mental health. I want to take a moment to talk to you about how we're addressing that as well. By the way, Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, has been really focusing on this a great deal. A lot of you have worked with him. Through the American Rescue Plan, we provided initial funding for cities to start to address some of the mental health needs arising from the pandemic. $5 billion for states and community organizations to deliver mental health and substance abuse treatment. $103 million in funding specifically to address mental health for frontline health professionals, like nurses. You read in your communities, you've dealt with your hospitals, where the nurses are just overworked and having serious, serious problems in terms of their own mental health. We know it wasn't enough, so probably the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And we went even further. That provides $10 billion to address mental health needs. $2 billion of that is for young people in particular to pay for things like school counselors. And we know what fentanyl is doing to families and communities all across the country. We've worked hard to make sure the...
Hey, so wait, I gotta interrupt this shit here. All right, so you know how he said that a cop shouldn't respond to a person that's in mental distress on a bridge, right? A person that's saying they want to kill themselves? Well, it's weird because in 2020 or 2019, I don't know what year it was, he was on The Daily Show with that scumbag Trevor Noah. And Noah asked Biden whether or not trained officials rather than police should respond to mental health crises in instances where drug abuse is involved. And then the presidential candidate, now president, said that his daughter is a social worker because that has any sort of relevance. But he added that the idea that she'd respond to a 911 call alone doesn't make any sense. He said that police should be treated second in those circumstances and should go with people who are mental health experts. Well, that's quite contrary to what he just said before.
Never landed up being president.
I love fact-checking live. I'm
only kidding, but all kidding aside.
I love fact-checking.
Well, what have we done? She's a senior advisor on public engagement, led the cities through the pandemic. She makes sure to bring the perspective of local officials and community leaders to decisions we make here at the White House. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, a former mayor in Iowa, is strengthening our nation's rural communities, and he really is. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. And I know he's a Secretary of Agriculture, but what he's doing, American grocery stores are stocked while American farmers thrive and our young people have access to food when schools are closed. Secretary of Housing and Urban Affairs, Marcia Fudge. Marcia's right here. She got a hell of a job, a former mayor in Ohio, working very hard to close the wealth gap, expanding efforts to build generational wealth through home ownership. How did all of mainstream middle-class people get their wealth?
Also, in that same interview, do you know what Biden said was the single greatest concern for the upcoming 2020 election? Guess. Who knows what it was? What did Biden say the single greatest concern for the upcoming election in 2020 was?
As well as combating homelessness, which a lot of you are dealing with on your streets.
See if people know in the chat.
And while folks continue to recover, we're also rebuilding. Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of New Orleans, was president of this organization, is now my senior advisor and infrastructure coordinator to helping rebuild America through a once-in-a-generation
Ryan Campbell.
Bipartisan infrastructure
it, buddy.
bill. It's always
on
hard
Facebook.
to make... He's working with all of you to modernize our nation's roads, highways, bridges, railroads, airports, ports, water systems, the internet, and so much more. Last year alone, nearly 7,000 projects were identified and are underway with funding from the infrastructure law. By the end of this year, that'll be more than 20,000. More than 20,000. If I can hesitate again for a second, digress slightly. One of the things I've been telling the press, they look at me like
Election
they
F
look at me like I'm wonderful.
was
right?
the answer.
No,
I put it up on the
no,
screen.
all kidding aside, why I keep saying it. We did a lot last year with your help. It's only now beginning to bear fruit because we passed this infrastructure bill. That's a 10-year bill, and it's taken time to get it off the ground. Mitch McConnell and I just announced the construction of a new bridge, $1 billion across the Ohio River.
That one, bro?
It's going to fundamentally change transportation north and south, not just from Ohio to Kentucky, but across the nation. So many things are happening. We passed the bill relating to the cost of insulin. Well, guess what? Only now, as of January 1st, a lot of people are waking up and find out if they're on Medicare, they only have to pay $35 a month instead of $400 a month to save their lives. And I want the drug companies to be able to make money, but I tell you what, able to explain when they raised the price that as beyond inflation, that they invested more money in what they did in order to justify the price. Otherwise, guess what? We're going to go back and get it from them.
Here's the whisper. I just want to remind everyone, he supplemented the insulin costs, the leading insulin manufacturer that was affected by those costs. Guess what they make?
Former mayor of Boston.
Guess what they make?
Talking his
A
cars.
booster.
I kid Marty.
It's true. You can look it
But
up.
he's making sure these projects have prevailing
They make a
wage
booster
and purporting
that the
to
government
move and
purchased.
suggest for significant apprenticeships so people can make a living off of what they're doing. And then, by the way, I'm going to talk in a minute about the dealing with the whole idea of what we're doing in terms of new investments with the CHIPS legislation. Well, one of the leading investors of over, I think it's so far $22 billion in the United States from another country. I said, why are you investing in America? He said, because you got the best workers and you're the safest environment in the world in which we can do this. So we're helping to rebuild our economy with jobs that don't require 4-year degrees, promoting an economy that works for middle class and working class Americans. Transportation Secretary Pete is here. Look, we know, better known as Mayor Pete, but working with many of you to address those quality of life issues that really matter to people you serve. Not just through big bridges, highway projects, but through
He
those are
lost
important,
it.
but also through smaller projects that are critical to your cities. Like in Madison, Wisconsin, where Mayor Rose Conway is buying 46 electric buses, replacing those dirty diesels, bad for the health of the environment, and making it clear. No, I'm serious. It's a big deal. We're helping City rebuild airport. There you are. Okay. Well, thank you. And it means our kids aren't going to be inhaling that diesel fumes when they get off the bus. For real, it matters. Environmentally, it matters as well. And so, you know, we're helping cities rebuild airport terminals in Atlanta with Mayor Andre Dickens, in Orlando with Mayor Buddy Dyer, in L.A. with Karen Bass, and with the leadership of Vice President Harris, we're partnering with you to deliver affordable high-speed internet to every single household in America, affordable high-speed internet. So no parent has to park in front of a McDonald's to do the homework with their kid when the school's not in session, when they can't go to school.
When you shut down schools, say
it's
it
a big
right.
deal for farmers on that and a whole lot of other people to know exactly what products are costing.
Because of the
and selling for. And now over 50 million households have affordable internet that they didn't have just before we passed the law. We're also making the biggest investment ever in climate, the Inflation Reduction Act. We're creating millions of good-paying jobs and investing in fence-lined communities that have suffered the most as a consequence of being smothered by pollution. Think of the Cancer Alley in Louisiana or Route 9 in Delaware, where all those facilities are. Well, we made a commitment. We're going to invest first and foremost as we clean up those communities, the people from that community, and we're going to invest in that, make that community better again. Our economic agenda ignited a manufacturing boom, the semiconductor boom, the battery boom, the electric vehicle boom. We're making things in America again in every part of America, cities large and small. The mayor of Phoenix, Kate, is Kate here? Thank you, Kate, for being here. I was with her last month to announce a small investment, $40 billion. $40 billion invested by TMSC, the two semiconductor factories and thousands of union workers helping to build them. And Andy, you know, the Field of Dreams outside of Columbus, where Intel's investing, it's 100 acres, but they're investing $20 billion to expand semiconductor manufacturing. I said 1,000 acres. I dubbed it, I didn't mean to, I shouldn't have, but I said, this is the Field of Dreams. It is. It's a field of dreams. And by the way, of those jobs, of those 12,000 jobs, 7,000 are construction jobs. But guess what? They're paying prevailing wage. And those 5,000 jobs left, the average salary at those places, they tell them, are going to be $123,000 a year, and you don't need a college degree to do those jobs.
It's weird because he's trying to get all these programs where you don't need college degrees to do the job, and yet they're trying to make college tuition free. Well, they're trying to make us pay college tuition.
Everybody finds something.
Like other people's college tuition.
The bill signing and other victories.
Freaking
With your
insane,
support,
but
so many of you
it's so
we've signed the first major gun legislation in 30 years. I'll say what I've said before, not all of you are going to agree with me, but we're going to ban assault weapons. I did it once, we're going to do it again. And the number of bullets can be in a clip.
Good luck with that,
On
buddy. Sunday,
Sunday, we acknowledge what would have been the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. We're continuing to fight and protect a woman's right to choose. Last year, when I held the first of its kind White House summit at the request of others against hate-fueled violence, this group led the effort with 150 mayors to sign a compact, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, to prevent and address this type of violence in our communities. I'm committed to continue this work with all of you, but I need you badly. But there's more to do. As was mentioned by your president, immigration is another major issue affecting many of your communities, particularly border communities and near communities. I visited the border earlier this month, first time as president. I've been there before, but the first time as president.
He's never been there before.
And I'm taking action where I have the legal capacity to do so. I'll continue to call on Congress to act to pass comprehensive immigration reform to fix the system. The first bill I introduced was a comprehensive reform legislation on immigration. But because of some in the Congress, they refused to consider it. They found it a better issue to campaign on than an issue to solve. So we have a choice. They can keep using immigration to try to score political points, or we can help solve the problem. Immigration reform used to be a bipartisan issue, and we can make it that again, in my view. Let me close with this.
Finally.
I ran for office for 3 reasons. One was, even my campaign team thought I was wrong in terms of the basis upon which I was running. One of the things after, when I got elected as a 29-year-old kid to the Senate, I had to wait to be legally able to be sworn in because I wasn't old enough. No joke. They talked about, my being the youngest. I wasn't. There was one younger elected popularly than I was. But, I spent a lot of time. I used to get asked all the time, Mr. Mayor, what's the secret? Because if I won against a really good guy, he was a decent man, we never had a crossword with us, progressive Republican who helped write the Clean Water and Clean Air Act, et cetera. But we had disagreements on a number of other things. And second time I ran, he actually endorsed me. But the point is this is simple. I used to get asked, there must be a secret. If you could have won, there must be some secret. And I used to think about it, the people for the next 3-4 years that asked me that who were running for office in Delaware. And I finally figured it out. And you all are successful and you know it. I said, the secret is if you figured out what's worth losing over. Have you figured out what's so important to you you'd rather lose than win and have to compromise on it? And so when I ran this time, and I had not planned on running again, and all of you were probably saying, why the hell didn't you follow your instinct? But But I honest to God didn't. My son had passed away, and I had no desire to. I was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Things were going fine. To make a long story short, when I did, I decided there were 3 reasons to run. And I mean it. One was to restore the soul of America. The decency, honor, the idea we could deal with one another. No, I genuinely mean it. It's the way, and I've been this way my whole career, how we build the economy. From the bottom up and the middle out, for real. Look, I come from the state of corporate America. More corporations are incorporated in my state than every other one of your states combined. And I got elected 7 times there. So, you know, it wasn't I was anti-corporate, but I have a different view in terms of what the priority should be. And so, as I said, when the middle does well, they could generate hope, give chance to the working class, and when they do well, the wealthy do very, very well. Well, and the third reason I ran, which has been turned out to be the hardest to deal with, and that's unite the country. We are a democracy.
Bro. You're not trying to unite
We cannot
anybody.
be sustained if we stay 50 different islands or 2 different parties that no longer talk to one another. For the last 2 years since my inauguration, I think we've made some progress, large part because of many of you sitting in this room.
You're out of your
And I'm
damn
really
mind.
optimistic in the year ahead that we're implementing the laws we've already passed. We will deliver real benefits, and people are going to feel them in their everyday lives. You know, that work we're going to continue to do together. Together, we're proving that every city and town in this country, our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. And I really mean it. I was asked by my senior team, and Peter remembers, said, if I could do anything to change the attitude of optimism in America, what was the one thing I'd do? Just I could change one thing. It's going to sound bizarre what I tell you. I said I'd cure cancer. And they looked at me like, well, cure cancer? Because nobody thinks it's the most frightening thing to people. And if we did it, America can do big things again. There's nothing beyond our capacity, I swear to God. There is nothing beyond the capacity of the States of America. Remember who in hell we are. We're the United States of America. When we work together, there's nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing. So we got to work together, folks. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Now I'm going to turn it over to Julie.
He is by far one of the biggest hypocrites ever. He gets up there and says trying to unite people? You can't unite anybody. Literally, the White House press secretary just moments ago said they're not going to work with Republicans to try to solve the debt ceiling issue. She literally just said they are not going to work together. That this is not, a concession. That they will not work together, and that the only way it's going to pass is if Republicans bow down and say, yes, we will add more.
Great. Thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law and the CHIPS and Science Act, we're seeing jobs return to our cities, and we're preparing our citizens for the many opportunities to come. What can we as mayors do to help you further your agenda of shoring up our national security and bring more high-quality jobs to America's cities?
I think 2 things. One, be realistic and don't confuse the national debt with debt reduction on a yearly basis. The debt we're paying on, and we're going to have a little discussion about that with the new majority leader of the House, has accumulated over 200 years. Over 200 years. Not a joke. That's how long. That's what the national debt is. It's over, $31 trillion, but it's over 200 years, and 1/4 of that debt, 1/4 of that debt was accumulated in the 4 years of my predecessor. 1/4 of it. So what we've actually done, Mayor, we've actually cut the deficit on a yearly basis. In the first year, because of what I'm not being solicited, because of what you all did. $350 billion, and this year, we cut that deficit on a yearly basis by over $1 trillion. So it's over $1 trillion, roughly $400 billion we've cut the deficit. The yearly deficit, year to year.
From Politico, When it comes to deficit reduction, the Biden White House says one thing and does another. The Biden administration, including the president, has repeatedly claimed that he is all about reducing deficits. Meanwhile, the president has dedicated his entire tenure in office thus far to pushing massive spending increases for far-left policies, such as $400 billion in welfare for wealthy environmentalists and big corporations, $500 billion in slush fund states, and, this is the House, not Politico. What? Well, speeding up, yes. Okay, anyway, like I was saying, $500 billion slush fund to states and localities, packed with waste, I might add. And then more than $330 billion canceling student loans for wealthy borrowers, and $80 billion to double the size of the IRS. President Biden's track record clearly shows that his administration is focused on prioritizing reckless spending while ignoring his administration's inflation crisis and America's growing fiscal crisis. I had to say it in that accent because it was funny.
The rate they pay is 2%. I think you should be able to be a billionaire, but I think you should pay a little more than 2%.
Shut up.
No, I'm and by the way, I'm not trying, as Douglas knows me well, I'm not trying to be alarming about it, but I mean, it's a reality. Now, there's a lot of arguments why that shouldn't be, because they generate so much energy and so much growth, et cetera. But there's a lot of things we can do. Now, the option that's going to be offered, you're going to see.
And just so we can further clarify, the national debt was roughly $27.75 trillion when Biden took office. According to the Congressional Research Service, it's about $31.43 trillion, which is an increase of approximately $2.5 trillion.
Great ones like you and folks who don't do much, or don't, I shouldn't say don't too much. I shouldn't say, you've had more difficulty, is focus on the things that make your city unique and make it grow. What are the things that make it grow? Well, first of all, I could go on, but I'm just going to give you one example. We're in a situation where if you were one of the reasons why America became the most advanced and economically prosperous nation in the 21st century, we're the first nation in the world to have a universal education system, grades 1 through 12. Now, others had systems that were superior to ours in terms of their exclusiveness, but not universal. Now, I wonder if anybody today, we were starting off and saying, we're going to decide we're going to have a universal education system. Would anybody think in the second quarter of the 21st century that 12 years was enough to compete? I don't think so, for real. So a lot of you are doing a lot of experimental work in terms of not just pre-K, but you're doing it in terms of education, teaching kids to read, write, add, and subtract at 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And you're focusing on apprentice programs after college. You're focusing on, after high school. And you're focusing in high school on allowing people to learn trades instead of, there used to be, even you're old enough to remember, not you, Mayor. But when, there were shop classes in school where people learned whether they're comfortable working with their hands, so there's a lot of things that we can do in education. There's a lot of things you can also do in terms of dealing with, I'm going to get you a lot more money, God willing, because I think we have universal support for it, beyond the money that came out of the original legislation. There's a proposal that I've just presented I'm the guy that wrote the community policing law, but got very bad publicity. But guess what? People are figuring out, guess what? It works. The people who most need the help, the most victimized, are the poorest communities. So we need cops in those communities, from those communities, but cops that are held accountable to everything that they say we're supposed to do. And we can do that. So
The lefties right
focusing
now are
on
going, what?
Law enforcement that in fact is equitable.
Cops in poor
Focusing
communities,
on,
what?
You know,
What's
for
he trying to
example,
say?
nationally, I still think we should have the George Floyd legislation, but I didn't able to do that. So what I was able to do, I said no knock warrants are limited significantly. We're in a situation where you have to no chokeholds. There are certain basic things. You know, when I was coming up as a kid,
Yeah, he's
you know,
still on the
cops were
first
learned
question,
to,
by
you
the
know, required to learn to shoot to kill. Well, you ought to be able to shoot to stop.
It doesn't work,
You know,
fucking
everything
moron.
shouldn't be
Come
an
on,
extreme.
shut the fuck
So the
up.
way we train police officers
Watch
is changing.
It's so hard for me to listen to. Watch the video of the cop trying to shoot to stop the. That's what you do. You shoot to stop. By shooting them right here, they're not shooting to kill. They're shooting to stop. Well, they are shooting to kill because that's how you stop someone that's intent on killing you. Fucking more, dude. This guy's never even changed a tire in his life.
But giving you the wherewithal to do the things that you think
Change the
most
tire.
need to be done. And every community is a slightly different need, a slightly different need in terms of emphasis. And you know, I think one of the great mayors in the country is Duggan from Detroit. Not a joke.
Not a joke. I just keep saying not a joke.
I tell you what, he inherited a hell of a situation. And I remember Barack Obama turned to me one day and said, not a joke, Joe, fix Detroit. I said, oh, no problem. No problem. Well, I got to know Detroit. I found out things the mayor taught me was, guess what? That something was as close to 70% of the people in the 60% of the people in the city who were high school educated had jobs that were outside the city. And they couldn't get there. They didn't have, 60% of them didn't have cars. So we ended up getting, what, 20 new buses, was it, initially? I mean, you know, just practical things to determine what are the things that both allow neighborhoods to stay united and move. And again, there's a lot. And one of the things that Mayor Landrieu, as I still call him the mayor, but he's much more than that, he's running this show for me because we also have, I can't remember I asked for the phone number and I forgot it. 881-8946 that you can call because we have people in here. No, I'm not joking. A lot of people know we have these programs, but they're hard to navigate. So you can pick up the phone and call, how do I get the money to do A, B, C, or D? Can I do this with that?
This is exactly what I said. So he can brag about unemployment numbers. You literally get money for doing everything now. You don't need a job. You can fully pay rent, buy new shit, get welfare, food stamps, all that shit. And you don't even have to worry about it.
Reno, Nevada.
It's amazing.
All right, thank
Congratulations.
you. So first of all, thank you for inviting us to your home. We love what you've done with the place. It's beautiful. And also, I want to say thank
like
you.
museums, right?
I want to say thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts. I know everyone in the room is so grateful that you have brought mayors into your cabinet. I think it should be a requirement of every president. Mayor Landrieu, I love you. Mayor Pete, I love you. And I honestly believe like more has been done because of that. And so thank you so much for your leadership. We are so grateful.
What, six mayors in cabinet positions?
Nothing's been done.
6? All right, maybe we can get to 12? I know
Well, we
6
have-
more in
by the
here
way,
that would like to come.
We have more women than men.
See, love that too. Love that too.
He's like, where's the ice cream?
So you talked a little bit about mental health.
You know he's wearing a diaper.
Thank you so much for
right
your
now.
leadership
You
on
know.
that. It means the world to me. We are so fortunate to work with your Surgeon General. He is fantastic. He is fantastic. So all your mayors in the room are going to become mental health warriors. And we're going to be addressing addiction and loss and grief. And I'm going to ask you something very personal. You've had a lot of loss and grief in your life. And I know over the last few years, a lot of Americans have had a lot of loss and grief because of the pandemic. What would be what would you say to them and your advice to someone experiencing personal loss and grief?
Well, first of all, as close staff knows, I spend a lot of time with folks who've gone through loss. wife, daughter, husband, children, etc. And granted, I did lose my wife and daughter right after I got elected to the Senate. Tractor trailer broadsided them, killed my wife and daughter, and my 2 boys were little boys. They were on top of their deceased mom and sister for a long while because it took my local fire department a long time to do the jaws of life to get them out. And then the guy who should be standing here if there's any Biden was going to be president, and it's not hyperbole, is my son Bo. He's more qualified than I was. But he decided, I'll never forget, and asked me one Friday, he said, "Dad, what are you doing on Friday?" And I said, "What do you need?" He said, "I'd like you to swear me in." I said, "Swear you in? You're Attorney General of the state of Delaware. Swear you into what?" He said, "I joined the United States National Guard, the Delaware National Guard." And then when his unit got sent, he didn't have to go, but he got an exemption to go as long as he gave up the seat. And, that was tough. But you know what? I had family. I had an incredible wife. No man deserves one great love, let alone 2. And I had a mom and a dad and a sister and a brother were alive. And for example, when the accident happened early on, my sister's my best friend in the world, gave up her home, and she and her husband moved into my house to help me raise my kids. Without being asked, just moved in. And by the way, 5 days after I was married, they were gone. But I say that not about me, but it's about what mental health does. I had people around me that were there to help me. I was lucky. Everybody thinks I commuted every day I've traveled over 1,200,000 miles on Amtrak.
No,
Not a joke. I commuted every single
It's
day
already
for
been proven
36
false.
years, and then beyond that, as vice
Like
president.
6 things that
to
he
go home.
proved false
Everybody
already.
thought I went home because I went home because I couldn't afford 2 places. But anyway, no. I went home because I get to, kiss my boys goodnight and lay down with Sarah prayers, and then my daughter, etc. But I had my mother. I had my mother there. Every morning I'd drop the boys off when they were little at my mom's house, and then later I'd be able to drive them to school and they'd be picked up. But my point is I had so much help, and I had psychological help. Everywhere down there was someone there to basically hold my hand. Well, that's the mental health that a lot of families don't have. They don't have. And a lot of folks are in a situation where if they just had somebody to talk to, and that's why I think some of the things we can do that can also help families going through some real difficult times is, for example, preschool education, reading, writing, arithmetic, age 3. And it does 2 things. It helps your kid get an advantage, but it also helps mom or dad or a single parent or parents who are going through hell to have somebody there until 5 o'clock taking care of your kid while they're learning.
What?
So there's a lot of things that it does that gives people. But in addition to that, people who've gone through really tough times with drug addiction and a whole range of other things, alcoholism, they also are in a situation where they find themselves being able to have the kind of medical help that is needed in the mental health side of it. And so I just think having people to reach out who are professionals, who know how to deal with people going through trauma, tragedy, or self-inflicted wounds that they've had. And it makes a gigantic difference. The need for, look at what's happened. And I think I sometimes underestimate it because I stopped thinking about it, but I'm sure you don't. We lost over 1 million people in several years to COVID. What that means is And the study was done that there are 8 people close to every one of those, on average, those 1 million people. How many mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncle, aunts got up in the morning or sat down for dinner at night and there was an empty chair? How many? And what impact does that have on the rest of the family? And there's a lot of tricks that you can be taught, a lot of things you can do to engage the children who survive, engage the children who aren't addicted, engage the parent who. So I just think there's so many things that you can do. And the reason I gave you my personal story was I think it's just about knowing somebody's there, knowing somebody you can reach out to when you get scared and hold their hand. Whether it's a drug problem, whether it's a physical problem, whether it's just a... And by the way, my wife Jill got very engaged with the Brits and the U.S. military and dealing with trying to convince people. Think of the military.
Here, real quick, because I saw a comment in there that said his wife was drunk when she was hit by the tractor trailer, which is not true at all. In fact, they ruled out alcohol on both Curtis Dunn, the truck driver, and Biden's first wife. There was no alcohol that was involved or played any part into it. What they do know is that Biden's wife had a stop sign. Early reports are that she stopped at the stop sign and then proceeded to go through the intersection when she was hit by the tractor trailer, who did not have a stop sign. If you were going to apply an at fault in that instance, you would say she does. But I mean, just don't put false stuff in the chat. There's no evidence that she was drinking, no evidence that Curtis Dunn, the truck driver, was drinking either.
It's God's truth.
So please don't write that in my chat.
It is a problem that is a medical problem. And so hardest part is to get people, a lot of people, I say most people, to acknowledge that I'm getting help. I'm getting help. That's why we had this effort to my wife dealt with this program to provide for health for, post-traumatic stress for so many warriors. Pete, you toted a rifle, man. You were there. You see all the people. I don't know how many people that that need the help. But it's a help that you need any more than you need if you broke your leg. But we got to take the stigma away from the notion that you need mental health, because it's no different. And by the way, think of this. How many folks do you know, how many cops on your department need some mental health because they're suffering from post-traumatic stress, what they went through? I mean, we don't look at them and say, they're weak. But, it's just about, anyway, we just got to reach out and change the notion of a stigma associated with the notion of seeking mental health. And it starts early when you can detect with children when they need some guidance, really, or it doesn't mean they're, quote, crazy. It means they have some disposition that has to be treated. And there's a lot that can be done. I'm talking too much. I apologize, guys. Thank you all very much for joining.
So he only took 2 questions, and now he's done. So,
distinguished guests, please remain in your seats while the president departs.
He's got to go take a poop. Or he's got to go change his diaper. He already took a poop in his diaper. But anyway, man, that took forever, huh? So he said a bunch of things that were not true. I know a lot of you guys don't know Beau Biden. He went overseas. He served in Iraq or Afghanistan or something like that, and then he did come back. Joe Biden has, numerous times he said that his son died in Iraq, which is not true. He died here. They tried to connect it to the burn pits because there's been, cancers related to burn pits. Beau Biden did die of cancer, and it could be related to the burn pits over there. I have no idea if that is the truth. But Beau Biden did not die in Iraq, although Joe Biden has said that several times. And I saw a lot of you guys saying that he had an exemption to go to war. He did, because he was the sitting attorney general for whatever state, Delaware, I believe. So he had an exemption to allow him to go to war because he had to get someone to cover his spot. Or his exemption was that he didn't need to go, even though he was drawn up and he received deployment orders, or would have received deployment orders because he was deploying, but he had an exemption because he was holding public office. That happens. And so he had to get someone, or I don't know how it worked, the deputy attorney general covered that position when he went over there. But those are the truth. Someone said he got kicked out of the military for drugs. I don't know who that was. Beau Biden wasn't kicked out of the military for drugs, from what I understand. But maybe that did. I have no idea. But I wish a lot of people would just pay attention to actual facts, especially when you're in the chat, instead of just posting out stuff that's. I mean, you could Google that quick. Do you know what I mean? Like, before you type something, you could just like Google it. Did Joe Biden's wife drive drunk? You know, and then you'll find out that was false right away. Hunter Biden was kicked out of the military. Okay, yeah, he got a dishonorable right for cocaine, test positive for cocaine, I think. But I mean, Hunter Biden's a whole different story. That's why he didn't mention Hunter Biden at all there, did he? He didn't mention Hunter Biden at all because he can't. I mean, the guy is a crackhead who smokes crack with prostitutes and all that stuff, and it's very sad. It's very sad. Someone said that's because Google is always reliable. Yeah, but you could actually just do a little bit of research instead of writing misinformation in the chat to try to, pretend like it's fact. And that's a thing, and everyone has to do that. Everyone has to do that more often. Just check out some stuff. Someone said, you want us to rely on a liberal platform like Google for information? Nice one. No, you could figure out your own facts, but don't write misinformation in the chat, especially. And your picture, the George Floyd guy on YouTube, your picture and your name is just stupid. You shouldn't do that. It's just being disrespectful to everybody. And that's just my opinion. And you suck as a human being. You know what I mean? Can I just be as point blank as that? Because you'll notice the one time I didn't interject and argue with Joe Biden live when he was speaking is when he was talking about the death of his family and everything that transpired, because I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? He could tell his stories, he could talk about it all, and I'm not going to pass judgment on that stuff. Obviously, if he says something false, we'll report it as such. But it's sad. It's sad. They claim that the truck driver was, and they claim that initially, or I think Joe Biden. I remember Joe Biden said that recently too, and then I remember the fact check on Fox News about it too. But it is what it is. Here's something else that I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to start talking about it again, even though I started doing it before. And again, it's going to piss some of you guys off because my take on this it may be a liberal take, right? So, Florida is now in the news again. It came up in the White House press conference today. I'm sure it's all over Fox News. It's probably all over CNN and MSNBC. DeSantis or the Department of Education in Florida has banned a AP African Histories course that was issued by that's being promoted by the College Board, 60 different schools throughout the United States. Now, they banned it, saying that, and there's all sorts of stuff. People in the chat and people online were saying it has CRT in it. You have no idea unless you've actually read the curriculum, which nobody has, including the Department of Education in Florida. They didn't read the full curriculum. What they've said, and they didn't outline saying that there was any. In fact, what they said, according to one of the news articles I read, is that there were inadequacies, or what was the precise word? Because I want to get it right, because it was interesting. They said, in a statement by spokesperson for Florida's Republican Governor DeSantis, said the course leaves, quote, large ambiguous gaps that can be filled with additional ideological material, which we will not allow. So because there were gaps in this history that apparently the state of Florida determined could be filled with, all the, stuff that they don't believe in, that they've banned this course. I disagree with this 100%. 100%. And you know why I disagree with it? Because it wasn't a required course. It was an AP elective course for high school seniors. It was, and what's an elective? You may say, what's an elective? Elective is something that a student chooses to take. It's not a requirement for graduate. Well, a certain amount of electives are, but they have other electives. Like when I was a senior in high school, you know what I did? or I was a junior, but I was on my senior year as a junior. Do you know what I did? What my elective was? Cinema studies. I watched movies and wrote reports on them. Yeah, that was my elective. That's what I did. That and driver's ed my junior year were the only classes I had to take because I'm a genius. I'm not a genius, but I was smart. Finished high school early as hell. And that's the truth. You know, so everyone is going out and applauding this. It's an elective course. Who cares? Who cares? Because you have to sign off on your kids' electives. And if some parents like, I didn't know my child was taking that means you're a bad parent. Yes, and I'll say it out 100%. My kid is in 2 AP courses. He's in 7th grade. He's in AP Spanish and AP Math. We had to sign off and get him tested for the math to be able to take that course. And then Spanish, we had to sign off and sign permission slips and all that stuff for him to take this high school level course in 7th grade. Because that's what you do as parents. They don't just say, oh, the kid can't just choose to take an AP course without getting the parent to sign off on it. That's the same thing that happens in every school. So why do we strive so much to cancel education, even though we may disagree with it? Like I get it. If it was a requirement, then you could go whatever. You know, then you could be like, oh, it doesn't make sense. We shouldn't take this. You know what I mean? We shouldn't go there. We shouldn't do. You shouldn't do this because it's a requirement. But it's not a requirement. It's an elective. So why even ban an elective? Unless you're just trying to put your foot down and say nothing that has any connotation of anything that we disagree with is allowed in school, which I disagree with. I think what's happening now is too many people are taking. Someone said, so you know the course content of every AP kid. You miss the fact again. I would choose to allow that kid to take that course, my kid. For example, so say I had a high school senior and this course was available in one of those classes. If I had reservations about what the course was, I would either, one, not let my kid take it, or secondly, I would look up the course curriculum and make that determination myself. That's the truth. Do you think right now in schools we teach an accurate portrayal of American history? Because we don't. We don't even teach the same American history now in schools that we learned about when I was in elementary school and middle school and high school 20 plus years ago. We don't do the same thing. They don't learn the same thing. And that's what's continuously happening. Someone said, so the school is banning an elective. What difference does it make? Because you're at that point, you are dictating what other people can do. And I hate that. I hate that because here's the book canceling shit too. Do you know a lot of the books that we used to read in school are canceled now? A lot of the books, like what was it, Catcher in the Rye, like all these other weird books of mice and men. You're not allowed to read those books in school anymore. They've been deemed either 1, they're racist, 2, they're sexually promiscuous, 3, all these other reasons. None of this, you're not reading them anymore. Kids aren't reading it. So you know what kids are doing? They're reading Harry Potter and bullshit like that because that is more relevant, I guess, to kids now. We have taken this push to do, and here's the thing, because I think a lot of people, a lot of what people can do, and someone said the books are changed in school because of racism. That's not true. That's not true. A lot of books are being removed now because now conservatives are on school boards. Conservatives are the loud ones in school, and so we're removing anything with any hint of sexuality whatsoever. Even books that we all grew up reading, you know, like Mark Twain. They wanted to remove that book, which they should, because that's a little fucked up. You know, Huckleberry Finn or whatever, that book's a little weird. Even my wife the other day, she said she was reading it to determine whether or not she was going to let her kids read it. She made the determination her kids aren't reading that. And it wasn't because of the racial connotations and stuff in that book. No, it's simply because of something with when he was on a raft and there was a dude there and it got all creepy. And I was like, I don't remember that and I don't care. But do you know what I mean? So Brent Jones said you need to stop spreading false information. There's nothing I've said right now that's false. Everything I've said is based on my own opinion, that I believe parents should be allowed to have a choice to educate their kids. Isn't that the same thing you're arguing? That schools should disclose when they're doing like, you know, this or that, or that parents need to be, isn't that what people are arguing? Is that parents need to be more proactive in their child's education? And yet we're allowing school districts to dictate what we are and aren't allowed to have our kids read. Doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. It seems like it's too, we're flip-flopping too much. Because we were pissed 2 years ago because the Democrats were controlling our kids' education and they're teaching all this shit that we don't want them to teach. So we got involved, and now we're doing the opposite. So now we're banning it from all this context, all these pieces of education that we may disagree with. We're now saying nobody can learn about them. It doesn't make any sense. In the example here with the AP elective course, there's no reason why Florida should have banned that course at all. No reason. Because that's not a standard course. It's not required for graduation. And most likely a parent has to sign off in order to take any AP course. At least that's what it is in our district. So I don't know why people are so up in arms. And it's funny because someone said, if you don't agree with these fools, it's false information. Meaning that if people disagree with me, they say I'm spreading false information. When nothing I've said is false. These are opinions. I think we're taking it too far and going after schools. I seriously think we are, because I think now it's easier. Republicans and conservatives advocated because we want to be involved in our kids' educations. We want to be involved in our kids' educations, but then we can't be involved because now we got to get rid of sex ed in schools because now it includes stuff we disagree with. We got to get rid of books because it may have a little bit of nudity or sexuality, and these are classic books. We got to get rid of this. We got to do that. We can't teach American or African history in school because it's not the history we agree with. That's the thing about it. People are just taking it too far, all over the place. Someone said in Arizona middle schools they are teaching. They're calling classes American history, but doing civics, and most of it is trying to teach them one political way. It's total BS. Yeah, I don't know. Here's what I do know. My wife was a civics teacher for an entire year. Guess what? She hated it because it was so hard to be apolitical when you're doing a civics course nowadays. Because everybody is political, even seventh graders. That was a civics course in high school. But even sophomores in high school are extremely political now. So she hated teaching that course because every time she tried to make something and give a neutral perspective and explain civics, it didn't work. She wasn't able to do it because then there would be arguments and political arguments back and forth in the classroom. And she was always careful to toe that line and be like, I'm not crossing this line of where parents are going to get pissed off at me. So she always does that. But I think we're going too crazy. Someone said, come on, Steve, they're banning the course for a single year. You're just overreacting. It's not banned for the state, just public schools. You're missing the point. Because everyone says it's like a stepping stone to a path that we shouldn't be cheering on. Okay, it doesn't matter if they banned it for the public schools for just that year and you can take it in private school. It doesn't matter. When you start banning stuff because you disagree with it, which is why we got in this place in the first place, it's a bad thing. This course, in my opinion, and I haven't seen the curriculum, but in my opinion, based on what is readily and publicly available about this course right now, there's no reason for it to be banned. There's no reason, because especially for a high school senior should be allowed to choose their electives and determine what they want to educate themselves about, with the parents, proactively being parents. You know what I mean? And that's the truth. Someone said, I don't know, dude. It's the teacher's job to teach a kid math, English. I don't believe sex ed ever belonged to school. That's a conversation for a parent. I agree as well. But here's my question. I'm 38 years old. How many of you guys are above 38 or 38 or more and you took sex ed in your school? Were you repulsed? Were you like, oh my God, they're talking about sex? I saw an 80-year-old woman, because it wasn't teachers that did it, it was old people that came in. I saw an 80-year-old woman apply a condom to a banana. It was the strangest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Did I learn anything new from that course? Fuck no, I already knew all that shit. I was a busy freaking, kid. But you know what I mean? Now it's gotten way different because now sex isn't what it used to be. Gender isn't what it used to be. We didn't have all that stuff. Sure, they talked about gay stuff because that was, coming out, was the 90s, whatever. So they started talking, or the early 2000s. Well, no, it was still 90s. When did I graduate? 2001. So yeah, it was like when I took sex ed, it was probably 99. Fuck, I'm old. But you know what I'm saying? So we just live in such a weird world where now people can't talk. And I get why we shouldn't have sex ed. I don't want my kids learning about sex ed in this climate. You know what I mean? But to be honest, there's nothing that anybody else is going to say in a school setting that my kids don't already know about. That my kids already, they've been like, Dad, why is that dude wearing a dress? I don't know, bud. It's a mental health issue. I mean, but I've had these conversations with my kids already. You know what I mean? So I can't imagine, and I know some of the school board members that watch my show have been really into, saying that, nah, Steve, like, what I agree, we took sex ed as a kid. What they're teaching now is completely different. And okay, it's completely different. And you can make the argument that type of sex ed, like, are they even teaching biology anymore in school? Because again, what is a woman? Like, I don't even know. God, that's a weird one. Do they teach biology anymore in school? Oh, fuck, I should ask my kid about that in science class. Do they go over genders? Like, is there male and female? Is the teacher telling them, see, I'm not doing a good enough job. I haven't asked my kid about that. Like, have they ever gone over genders? Oh my God, can you imagine if my kid's like, yeah. So, yeah, it was weird because we had this conversation. They said there's man and woman and then that. In my district, that's probably what the teacher would do. There'd be a man and woman and then, but it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. We used to learn about so many different things. So many different things. We used to learn about balancing a checkbook or making cake. Or actually, I built a house in middle school, literally in construction trades. We built a house and then they would donate it every year. That's the shit we did as kids. They don't do any of that. They still have tech. Like my son knows more about CNC laser etching machinery shit than I ever will. Which is pretty awesome because if I ever get a laser, he could show me how to use it because I want to do it for engraving the ammo cans. But I truly worry about what direction we're doing because I feel like now we're counteracting everything that we fought against. Do you know what I mean? That's truly what I believe. I believe the conservatives are now like, okay, we're in power. Now we got it. We can dictate what's going on. So we're going to just go full fucking scorched earth and rid everything. Even we're not allowing our kids to become individuals. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying they need to learn about dudes making out with other dudes in order to be an individual. That's not what I'm saying. But what is the harm of an elective class to teach about African history? Whether or not that African history is still, I don't know. We don't know the curriculum. Not a single fucking one of you in the chat know the curriculum. So by you saying that it should be banned based on that, and based on the outrage that's coming out about some of these, even some of the educators in Florida that are like, nah, like you don't even know what's in it. And based on the premise that the initial press release just said, like this, what I just read to you, the comment from the governor's office wasn't even in the initial press release, the letter that was issued to the College Board. They just said no. They said they're not approving it and you're welcome to reapply when you reevaluate the curriculum. They didn't even say what was in violation or what didn't follow Florida statutes. And then the reason for vetoing it says, essentially, the course violates state law. That's what the Florida Department of Notice said. And then a statement by the Florida's Republican governor, DeSantis, said the course, this is the reason why they denied it, according to DeSantis's office. The course leaves large ambiguous gaps that can be filled with additional ideological material, which we will not allow. So they banned a course that didn't have any ideological material in it, but that could be filled with ideological material. Nobody sees how that's wrong. Nobody sees how that's wrong at all. I don't know, man. To me, that's just weird. That's just weird, And I don't know why anybody would go and advocate for that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because again, this isn't a course that's being readily taught to required reading for every kid in school. That's not what it is. It's an elective which a parent has to sign off on. So this makes it super easy that a parent doesn't have to do their job. That's what it does. That's what this banning does. It means that now you as a parent don't have to worry about what your kid's learning. You don't have to pay attention. You don't have to have that conversation when your kid comes home over dinner like we do every single night. Even though my wife's a teacher in the same school, in the same grade, we ask our kids what they learned about today, and they got to run through every single course, every single thing they learned, what they learned in math, what they did in PE. That's what parents do. We know if my kid is going to come and say something stupid about something, or say a teacher said something crazy, and it's happened before, and then we have to call the school and be like, yo, you said this shit. And they're like, no, we said this. Your kid fucked it up and took it in a different way. And then we have to go back to the kid and say, hey, the way you heard this teacher was wrong because this is what they said. And then sometimes we're like, I think the teacher's lying. Even my wife, a teacher in the very same school, will go and ask the other teachers, like, hey, I heard you said this in course today. And they're like, no, you left out these two words, which completely changed the meaning of what we said. Does anybody not get that aspect of it? Someone said, has sex ed made a difference for the better? Has teen pregnancy or sexual diseases diminished since this has been implemented? Here's the thing. To be honest, with the advent of social media, the necessity for sex ed in school is probably non-existent. You'd be better off just getting rid of sex ed now. But, I mean, I had sex ed in school. I didn't turn out to be a fucking weirdo. I mean, like, I'm not weird, at least to me. You know what I mean? But and so that's the thing is, like, for me personally, I'm just like, what is the big hubbub? Our kids already know all this shit. My kids ask all the time about shit. They see it on freaking YouTube shorts. They see girls. They see dudes. Like, one time I remember having to have a conversation with my son when he was 5. Why? Because I walked by his iPad and there are 2 cartoon character dudes kissing. And I was like, what the fuck is this, bruh? What are you doing, bruh? And I had to have a talk with him. And it just turned out it was literally a cartoon about 2 fucking frogs. And I thought they were both dude frogs. They're not. They're both like non-sexual frogs. I don't know. It was fucking weird. But I way overblew my reaction on that. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's where people just have to pay attention and be like, you have to parent your own kids. Everyone that's cheering on this decision in the state of Florida, you're leading me to believe that you don't want to parent your own kids, or you don't want to pick their curriculum. You don't want to pay attention when they're in school, which is a problem, because I don't see anything wrong with teaching African history in the United States. Why would you? You know what I mean? Especially if you don't even know what's in it. You don't even know what they're teaching. If you have a problem, and I look forward to finding more information out about this, because a lot of the main outrage right now is coming from the left. So of course they're not putting in. They're just like, right, this is a rights attack on CRT, blah blah, the mythical CRT. Doesn't say anything. James said, Steve, would you have the same reaction if it was a guy and a girl frog? Yeah, because apparently I did. Do you know what I mean? But yes, if my young child is watching 2 women make out, a guy and a girl, 2 kids, anybody, I don't want to see that shit, and I don't want my kids seeing that at that age, which is why I stopped and said something to him. You know what I mean? People have to be able to parent their children, and that's it. And I think it's easier now. I think it's easier now to just pass the buck onto schools. I think we did that. We got in a path of doing that for years and years. Right now that both parents have to work, it costs so much to do everything. Everybody kind of faded away from paying attention to their kids' education. And now with COVID, everyone was like, oh, you had to be there while your kid's going to school. And you started seeing what the teachers are teaching them now. And you're like, what the hold the fuck on? That's what happened. But we can't let this, where parents are paying attention now, we can't push this into the fact that we're not going to allow kids to learn about things that we may disagree with. Because, and you can do that to a certain extent. We're not talking about elementary school kids learning about African history in an AP class. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about high school seniors in an elective course. Nobody should be cheering on that's banned. That's my opinion. I would agree that if it was a requirement for all students, then it's a whole different story. But because it was an elective, there's no reason why it should be banned. No reason. That's like saying, oh, you can't do cinema studies because it's not a real course. You're just watching movies all day. I watched On the Waterfront. It was one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. Tell me it wasn't. Come at me, bruh. But that's my take on it. At least on this aspect of it. I think everyone is just so focused on trying to have everybody else do something for them that a lot of people are just, it's ruining it, It's ruining. That's my belief on that. And I'll tell you what, tonight I'm going to do another show anyway. It's going to be a late show, probably 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern time start. And I was planning on doing it anyway. It's the night crew show that I typically do. And I may continue this then because I want to, yeah. But what I am doing, just for everyone, just in case you didn't know, on our store, puretruthcoffee.com, we sell a bunch of stuff in addition to the world's most the flavorful coffee you've ever had in your life. It's amazing. We also have sweatshirts, hoodies, Patriot boxes. Now, this Patriot bundle is amazing. It's an 50 caliber ammo can that comes with either 2 t-shirts or a hoodie. You choose which one you want. And you can now choose the hoodie and everything you want if you want to do something. But also, we're running a discount today. So if you just say a random one, so you just choose t-shirt, in your size, you'll get random, all new designs that we don't even carry in the store right now because I just ordered all the designs. But if you use code WTF Liberals, because they're trying to cancel coffee, if you didn't know. That was another story I was going to talk about, but I didn't get to it. They say if you reduce your coffee consumption, you could save the climate. So I say, fuck you, environmentalists, buy some coffee. But if you go to Pure Truth Coffee, the link should be in your chat right now. And this is the bundle. The bundle, because I had to order all new tumblers and books. They didn't have the book that I put in the other ones. So I'm like, okay, this is basically a brand new bundle. So I bought new t-shirt designs to make it flush. So if you want the brand new t-shirt designs in your chat right now, you can order the bundle. Use the code WTF Liberals and don't choose the individual shirts because it won't let you use the code if you do that because of a different discount in there. But if you just say, the 2 t-shirts, choose your size, those will be random. We'll include the new designs that we put or that we ordered. And then we'll print the shirts and once we put them out. And then same with the hoodie. If you just choose that, you can use the code WhatTheF Liberals, get 10% off the bundle. I'll be shipping those out by the end of next week. I've already ordered the new tumblers because they didn't even have the tumblers that we had in the last bundles, which were pretty dope. They didn't have those anymore. So I ordered new tumblers today. I had to order a new book because the veteran book that we had was out of stock anyway. So these are essentially brand new bundles. So go in there and go. John Kennedy said, when are the hoods being shipped? The hoodies, they're already in. So if you got your patriotic bundle from that I packed 2 days ago, so you probably just got it and it's like your hoodies shipped separately, those should be on their way to you already because they've been in processing for 2 days with the printer. So, if you want to go Lee, but you have to email me. You never emailed me back. I need to know what coffee you want, buddy. I emailed you. You never emailed me back. Tell me what flavors of coffee you want. Okay. And you can switch it every month, but you have to tell me because you won the 4 free bags of coffee every month for a year, but you have to tell me what flavor coffee you want, or I could just send you, random ones if you want that instead. But yeah, so reply to that email or send me an email. But again, what I need as many people as can, and I know I say this all the time, but I'm making a huge push this month to get as many people as we can to go to the store, buy up. So that way I'm good. All this talk about Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire and how, they offered him $50 million. It really made me pay attention to it sucks. It sucks not being monetized on YouTube. The way I make my money is by the profit on these apparel sales. By doing that kind of stuff. I don't really make money anymore on YouTube, maybe a couple $100 a month. And on Facebook, it's going down every month too because they're not monetizing as many of my videos. Twitch, I don't even know. I think I make like $70 a month on Twitch. So it's really important for me to push these sales as much as I can because 1, it pays for the store to keep the store open. 2, it pays me to be able to keep doing this and not have to worry about it quite as much. And we just have a lot of big bills, a lot of tax bills. Like I'm going to have a huge tax bill for the company. So I'm just trying to do as much as I can. So if you haven't bought, or even if you have bought a bundle and you just got it, order another one today. It's going to be a whole nother bundle. Okay. So, and there's only 3 or 4 bundles that haven't shipped already besides Bruce's. Bruce, you're probably going to get a variety of all different shirts and stuff because, you made a lot of big orders. And I just haven't sent them yet because I ran out of Fiery But Peaceful, but that's coming today at my house. It's already there. But please, Go and buy bundles. Buy as many as you can. You could buy them for friends. You could gift them to your neighbor. They come in a 50 caliber ammo can. Each one has a custom tumbler. It's got a bag of our fiery but peaceful coffee. You can only get it in the bundles. You can't buy it online. It's like a hot cinnamon. It's got a picture of a riot coverage. It's pretty badass. And then it comes with a book written by a veteran, a bunch of new patches that most of you guys haven't seen yet because it's a whole new patch kit that we bought. It comes with a tactical hat that you can apply the patches to, which is pretty dope. It comes with either 2 t-shirts, comes with a sticker pack, and if it doesn't come with the t-shirts, it comes with a hoodie. You choose which one you want. So you either get 2 custom t-shirts or you get 1 hoodie. And the way I'm doing it is when you order the bundles now, the bundles as soon as I get the new order, ammo cans and the books and the tumblers, I'm putting the bundles together and sending them out. And if you don't choose your t-shirts during checkout, you'll see another line item because I'm just going to add 2 t-shirts that are going to be directly printed out. And those will have a design that you can't get in our store anyway. It's like a first run for it. And then we'll go from there. But I'll be live. Fiery but Peaceful is good. I haven't even tried the Fiery but Peaceful. It smells delicious, but I haven't even tried it yet, to be honest, because every time I get it, it's out. Someone said, is the stuff made in the USA? The majority of the stuff I try, so it's made in the USA. Obviously, the t-shirts are printed here in the USA. The shirt material and all that material's, internationally sourced. The shirts aren't, because I'm someone that believes in supply chain. And if we're importing a shirt from wherever it's coming from and we print it here, it's also paying for like dock workers and truckers and all that stuff. That's the way I think about it. It's a really good way to think about it. And to be honest, American cotton shirts cost way more. So whereas I may get a raw, blank shirt, that's what they're called, a blank shirt for like $15 that's made in Honduras, and then I print it here with the American design and print it in my own shop here. That's way different than paying $25 for an American t-shirt and not being, as much as everybody always says that they'll buy it, they don't. As someone that does it for a living, they don't. People will say it all day long, but for every 1 shirt that will sell, 30 people will be like, the price is too high. And in all reality, that's the price. That's why almost every single manufacturer that makes patriotic themed shirts, they'll have 2 options. They'll have an American made shirt, which is dramatically higher in price because the American vendors charge way more because the cost to make it is way more. The tumblers, the majority of them are manufactured overseas and then printed here. Same with the mugs. It's just how it works. But if you know the supply chain, you should cheer on that, because the majority of the products that are coming in, they're hitting U.S. docks. So they're hitting U.S. dock workers. They're getting on warehouses that are hitting U.S. dock workers and warehouses. U.S. truck drivers are delivering it back here. So even when that's the thing I always argue, is when you're buying stuff that is the raw materials are made out of the country. Almost everything, even the American-made products, are made of raw material from other countries for the most part. When the product is coming in here, you're still benefiting Americans' jobs. And I wish people talked about that more. And then obviously the ammo cans, I don't know where the ammo cans are made, but I know where I get them. I buy them surplus from the U.S. military. So they are all surplus 50 millimeter ammo cans. And we put all the gear in, and then we put the ammo can in a box and we ship that to you. So yeah, that's that. So go over, please, everybody. Today, I got 300 of you. I want to see 300 orders. Yeah, 300 orders. I'll tell you what, if I even have, I'll make a goal. If I do 15 of these boxes by the time I go live tonight, I'll give away a TV live on the air tonight. So how about that? If I do 15 boxes, I don't know if I've even sold any of these yet. No, not yet. So if I do 15 boxes between now and the end of, which I probably won't because this has been a long video, but 15 boxes, I'll give away another TV. And here's the best part. If I do 15 boxes, I'll do a giveaway for a TV, and I'll make it open to everybody. So you don't have to make a purchase in order to win the TV, because the 15 people who order the boxes will have supported you. So how about that challenge? How about that challenge? Who's going to accept that challenge? Huh? Who's going to accept that challenge? Are you going to accept that challenge? I'm going to call you out. RGAJUS. Are you going to accept that challenge? Are you going to accept that? How about you, Marcus4117 on Rumble? Huh? You going to accept that challenge? Huh? What about Someone said 50 cal, not 50 mil. Oh, did I say 50 mil? No, 50 cal. Momo said, I want the ammo can, just waiting for payroll to hit my account. Yeah. Someone said, why are we taking money from U.S. citizens sending it to Ukraine? That's a question I cannot answer for you, bud. Trust me, I've tried to figure that out for a long time. I can't figure it out. What the shit I mean? I don't know. But here's the link for the bundles. Who's gonna be an all-star? Because I'll also promote it. Everyone who orders a bundle today, when I do the big giveaway tonight, the giveaway will be open to everyone that watches on Rumble, Facebook, Twitch, DLive, YouTube, everywhere I live stream. You don't have to make a purchase. But I will say that this TV is gifted because of the people who buy the bundle today. How about them apples? Okay? Who wants to do that challenge? Who wants to do that challenge? Let's see how many of you. Links in the chat. I'll be live, like I said, around 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. It's a late night show that I do called The Night Crew. Everyone better make sure, I don't have a Night Crew hoodie yet, but you all better make sure you're wearing your Night Crew garb. All right, we'll see you guys tonight, 9 or 10 o'clock.